Chapter 1003. Long Fei stopped Han Yunxi and asked the one-armed man coldly. What's your relationship with Tianshan Kenzo? Long Fei's question had nothing to do with Mo's sword spirit, but it was very important. Someone with such brilliant swordsmanship, if he wasn't from the Celestial Mountain Sword Sect, where did he come from? The one-armed man was surprised by Long Fei's question. He hesitated, but the pain in his bones and the lady boss's laughter reminded him that he must answer Long Fei's question. My master is from the Evil Sword School. He has been living in seclusion for many years and has never asked about Kenzo. I am his only disciple. The one-armed man answered honestly. Evil Sword School. Long Fei was satisfied with the answer and stepped back. There were some things about the Evil Sword School that he did not know, and he had never seen some of the secret techniques of the Evil Sword School. Han Yunxi immediately took out the antidote to save the man. She wanted to ask more questions, but there was not enough time. If she did not save the man now, they would not be able to get any answers. The man took the antidote and fell to the ground. Han Yunxi could feel him sighing. Han Yunxi knew there was something going on between the man and the lady boss, but she was not interested. She only knew that the two of them had killed 7 innocent women and 2 shadow guard. Their crimes were unforgivable. After the antidote, Han Yunxi asked, why was Mo's sword spirit absorbed by Gu's body? What is going on? Is his life in danger? The man lowered his head and said dejectedly, I don't know. The proprietress stared at Gu Qishao. Her smile had been perfectly fine, but she suddenly burst into tears. It's gone, the sword he wanted is gone, the man's head drooped down silently. No matter how Han Yunxi questioned him, he didn't say a word. Han Yunxi wanted to kick him away. You untrustworthy thing. Miss, I really don't know. I really don't know. He could see Gu's life providence, but he couldn't see through his body or his thorny vines. He felt that Gu's body was immortal and indestructible, and the vines were also immortal and indestructible. A complicated look flashed through Long Fei's eyes, but he didn't say anything for a long time. At this moment, Bailey Mingxiang and Su Donglin suddenly shouted, Liuguang is gone. Flowing light is gone. Han Yunxi and Long Fei looked back and saw that the red light had really disappeared, and the sword light that lingered around Gu had also weakened at the tip of the sword. Gradually, the sword light also disappeared. Gu seemed to have fallen asleep in midair. Shao Qi. Han Yunxi subconsciously said. She didn't even realize that she had called out Shao Qi. Su Donglin, go and take a look. Long Fei said. He had to look after the one-armed man and the lady boss, or he would have gone over long ago. When Su Donglin went over, Han Yunxi wanted to follow, but Long Fei stopped her. He was a little angry. If Mo's sword soul loses control, it will be extremely lethal. You better behave yourself. Long Fei knew that Han Yunxi was worried about Gu purely out of friendship, but he also minded. He had a heart that could contain the entire world, but when facing this woman alone, he couldn't accept a single grain of sand. But Shao Qi, Han Yunxi was worried. He didn't burn to death, so there shouldn't be a big problem. Long Fei said. Sure enough, before Su Donglin even got close, Gu suddenly opened his eyes. Su Donglin was frightened and didn't dare to move forward. Gu, are you okay? Su Donglin asked timidly. Gu stared at him for a while, then suddenly rolled his eyes and flew towards Han Yunxi and Long Fei at an extremely fast speed. Seeing this, Han Yunxi's heart that was hanging in midair finally relaxed. Gu could still be so lively, so there shouldn't be a big problem. This guy, could it be that he really kept Mo's sword soul in his body? Why was it like this? Han Yunshi was just about to ask Gu, who knew that Gu would rush in front of Long Fei Yi and ask, Long Fei Yi, did you want to kill me just now? Long Fei Yi was high and mighty, looking down at him disdainfully, too lazy to answer. He swung his sword at Gu just now, just to cut the ropes on his body. This guy ran over to question him about this, which meant that this guy was very clear-headed during the whole process. Long Fei Yi originally didn't want to pay attention to Gu, but suddenly thought of something, and actually opened his mouth. He sneered, just now I saw you like a moth flying into a flame, and thought that you had become stupid after being tied up for so many days. Hee hee, looks like you haven't become stupid. Like a moth flying into a flame. Gu didn't understand, but Han Yunshi immediately understood Long Fei Yi's meaning. Just now when the man with the broken arm attracted the sword fire, Gu did take the initiative to throw himself at him. She saw it, but just now she was anxious, worried that Gu would be burned to death, so she didn't have time to think about it carefully. Now that she heard Long Fei Yi say this, she realized that something was wrong. Since Gu was conscious, then it was not a coincidence that he took the initiative to throw himself at the sword fire. It was not an accident, it was done with a purpose. Could it be that Gu knew something? Han Yunshi frowned and looked at Gu. She found that there was a deep wound on his shoulder. Other than that, there were some wounds caused by the sword chi. He really wasn't stabbed by the dagger. So much blood just now, should be from the deep wound on his shoulder. The more she looked at him, the more she felt that something was wrong. The more she thought about it, this guy actually had the mind to question Long Fei Yi. Could it be that he didn't care about everything that happened to him? Wasn't he curious? This was not normal. How much did this guy know about Immerse's sword spirit? The man with the broken arm wouldn't be stupid enough to tell Gu about the sword spirit. Gu most likely already knew everything. Gu! Han Yunshi suddenly shouted. Gu was shocked. He looked at Han Yunshi, and actually unconsciously retreated. In this world, it was not only Long Fei Yi who was afraid of Han Yunshi getting angry, Gu was also afraid. Why didn't you burn to death? Han Yunshi suddenly asked. Gu's face turned pale, he panicked. What did Han Yunshi mean by asking this? Did she suspect him of something? He was wrapped in the thorny vines, he wasn't injured by the sword fire. Han Yunshi should have seen it earlier. Why did she still ask this now? Gu immediately looked at Long Fei Yi, his heart filled with shock. Could it be that Long Fei Yi had told Poison Lass something? Facing Gu's questioning gaze, Long Fei Yi looked back at him with disdain, and then looked away. Long Fei Yi's attitude made Gu even more uncertain. Could it be that when he was bathed in the sword fire and sword chi, Long Fei Yi had told Poison Lass the truth about him not dying to comfort her? Gu's heart was beating wildly. He looked at Han Yunshi, suddenly not knowing how to answer. Who knew? Han Yunshi asked again. Gu, did you already know about the secret of Immerse's sword spirit? What happened to the thorny vines? How did they resist the sword fire? Han Yunshi would never have thought that Gu had an immortal body. She was angry because she thought that he suspected that Gu wasn't really kidnapped these few days, but was pretending to be kidnapped by the one-armed man. He knew about Immerse's sword spirit. He had been waiting for an opportunity, which was why he took the initiative to jump into the sword fire. Gu, did you go to the memorial hall that night? What did you see? Why didn't you come back to find us? Why didn't you come back to report that you were safe? Han Yunshi asked again. Gu's originally tense nerves suddenly relaxed. He understood Han Yunshi's anger, and he suddenly laughed out loud, laughing foolishly. You're still laughing. What's going on? Han Yunshi almost kicked him. At the side, the one-armed man was also waiting for Gu's answer. He did kidnap Gu, but he was also full of doubts about Gu's actions. Han Yunshi was so angry that her face turned white. Gu quickly explained. It turned out that he couldn't sleep that night, so he went to the memorial hall to check on the corpse, but unfortunately, he bumped into the one-armed man and the lady boss who were collecting the bones. He was almost sure that the one-armed man and the lady boss were the culprits, and he was also sure that the dagger in the lady boss's hand was the cheese shaw. He was curious about what the one-armed man and the lady boss wanted to do, so he didn't say anything, and hid in the dark. After the one-armed man and the lady boss collected the bones, they scattered lights all over the walls of the memorial hall, and set the entire memorial hall on fire. That morning, he followed the one-armed man and the lady boss to the Yin-Yang Lake, and eavesdropped on their conversation, and found out the truth. He was the person they were looking for. He purposely appeared by the lake, attracting the one-armed man's attention, and was successfully kidnapped. Then why did you jump into the sword fire? Are you looking for death? Han Yunxi persisted on this question. Even if Gu knew the truth about Immerse's sword spirit, there was no need for him to jump into the fire. Long Fei Ye's lips curled into a sneer. He wanted to see how Gu would explain. Who knew? Gu actually dug out a small root from the deep wound on his shoulder, and threw it in front of the one-armed man. Everyone recognized at a glance that this root was the root of the bramble vine. Gu explained, even if the bramble vine by the lake is cut off, I can still grow another bramble vine. The bramble vine that is grown from blood is not afraid of fire, water, and not even the sword fire. With it protecting my life, no matter what, I have to lure out Immerse's sword spirit to take a look, so as not to waste these two's efforts. The one-armed man was very surprised, and he laughed bitterly. Hee, so that's how it is. He had calculated everything extremely well, but meeting someone like Gu, it was really impossible to guard against. Han Yunxi had seen the power of Gu's bramble vine, but she didn't know much about it. She turned back to look at the Yin-Yang Lake, which had already returned to its calm state, and the bramble vine that had just fallen had already sunk into the water. She didn't think that Gu would lie to her about this kind of thing, but she didn't probe any further. However, Long Fei Ye's smile became even colder, and even more disdainful. Gu following the one-armed man and the lady boss was credible. As for the bramble vine not being afraid of water or fire, it was pure nonsense. If Long Fei Ye didn't guess wrongly, the truth should be. The one-armed man looked at her. The heartache in his eyes was like tears, about to overflow at any time. What's going on? What right do you have to say that Immerse's sword spirit is hers? Han Yunxi asked. Even though they had found the murderer, even though Immerse's sword spirit was taken by Gu, they were still full of puzzlement about this matter. Since she's in your hands, you can do whatever you want with her. The one-armed man said indifferently. Then I can only hand you over to the magistrate. These few lives are innocent. Han Yunxi said cold. I killed them, let her go. The one-armed man said in a low voice. I believe that you killed them, but wasn't she the one who collected the bones? Didn't she have a part in setting the memorial hall on fire? Han Yunxi questioned. The one-armed man suddenly looked at Han Yunxi, his eyes full of murderous intent. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything to Han Yunxi. Why didn't you collect the bones directly after killing them, but leave behind evidence? Han Yunxi asked seriously. This was the part she couldn't understand the most. If she didn't get to the bottom of it, she wouldn't be at ease. Han Yunxi was worried that there were secrets in this matter that they didn't know, so she asked in this way. But after asking, she realized that there wasn't any big secret in this matter. The heartless lady boss was actually a sincere person. The one-armed man wasn't the lady boss's husband, but the lady boss and her husband had been good friends for many years. The lady boss's husband accidentally entered the Yin-Yang Lake and was sucked into the whirlpool at the bottom of the lake. When the one-armed man jumped into the water to save him, it was already too late. Although he grabbed his good friend's hand, the suction force under the whirlpool was very strong and pulled his good friend's body into pieces. The one-armed man only managed to save the lady boss's husband's hand. From then on, the lady boss's temperament changed greatly. She carved her husband's hand into a necklace and a bracelet to wear. She stubbornly believed that her husband's soul hadn't left and had been waiting at the bottom of the lake for her to reunite. The one-armed man had forgotten how many times he stopped the lady boss from jumping into the lake to commit suicide. Every time he failed to persuade the lady boss, he could only knock her out like just now. When the one-armed man jumped into the lake to save the lady boss, he discovered that Immerse's sword spirit was hidden at the bottom of the Enyang lake. Helpless, he could only lie to the lady boss, saying that her husband's soul had already merged with the sword spirit. As long as she could obtain Immerse's sword spirit, she could reunite with her husband. Thus, the lady boss stopped trying to commit suicide. She began to search for a way to subdue Immerse's sword spirit with the one-armed man. They learned that in order to subdue Immerse, they had to destroy the sword spirit's evil spirit and forge a treasured sword. In order to forge a treasured sword that could subdue Immerse's sword spirit, it had to be made of extremely evil gold. Thus, they spent a total of 5 years to find the 7 evil daggers. With the one-armed man's swordsmanship and the lady boss's bone-collecting technique, they could have easily destroyed the corpses. However, the sword fire needed to burn for 49 days. In order to ensure that these 49 days would go smoothly and not be disturbed, the lady boss decided to commit suicide. They wanted to borrow the power of the magistrate office to seal off the Enyang Lake. The Enyang Lake was originally a place that the people of Qingchuan City feared. In addition, the women who came to the lake were assassinated one after another. Moreover, they bled from their 7 orifices and died horribly. Naturally, no one dared to come to the lake again. Moreover, if the magistrate office could not solve the case, they would forbid the people from coming near the lake. They went to the memorial hall to collect the bones of the 6 women and set the memorial hall on fire. Firstly, they destroyed the corpses to hide the fact that they had collected the bones. Secondly, they used the memorial hall's fire to create rumors. They had already planned that after burning down the memorial hall, they would rob and kill the magistrate's women. Then, they would find a few witches to spread rumors that the heavenly fire would come to the Enyang Lake. If there were any disrespectful people, they would be punished. In this way, the magistrate office would not dare to continue investigating the case. They would only send more people to guard the Enyang Lake. At that time, when the sword fire burned, no one would dare to go near it or interfere. They planned to find the 7 women's skeletons before they started looking for the person with the fiendish life. However, they did not expect Gu to suddenly appear by the lake. The one-armed man could tell at a glance that Gu was born on the 7th day of the 7th month. His fate was fire and he was a person with the fiendish life. The 7th day of the 7th month was not a bad day. There were many people who were born on the 7th day of the 7th month. However, there were very few people who were born on this day with the fiendish life. The one-armed man immediately kidnapped Gu and put him under house arrest. In the past 2 weeks, because of the female corpses case, very few women came to the lake alone. That day, they found a woman by the lake alone. The one-armed man could tell at a glance that Sui Yun was not an ordinary woman. He also noticed that there were 2 guards hiding beside Sui Yun. He was not sure about Sui Yun's background. He was worried that Sui Yun was after Immerse's sword spirit at the bottom of the lake. Therefore, he went all out and killed Sui Yun and the 2 guards. He also asked the lady boss to take Sui Yun's bones. He planned to start forging the sword that night. However, when they killed Sui Yun, the 2 guards sent out a signal for help. Only then did they know that Sui Yun had accomplices. Helpless, the one-armed man and the lady boss could only run away and wait for the changes. Then, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi went to their shop. The lady boss did not find anything unusual. However, the one-armed man was very alert and suspected that Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi were not there to sell the accessories. They were just there to test the waters. When Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi left the shop, the one-armed man immediately left with the lady boss and everyone else. The two of them did not go anywhere. They just hid by the Yin-Yang Lake and waited. When Long Fei Yi drew out Immerse's sword Qi, the lady boss could not hold back anymore. The one-armed man had no choice but to throw Gu out and fight. But who knew that Gu already knew about Immerse's sword spirit? After hearing the one-armed man's explanation, Han Yunxi's face was complicated. When she looked at the lady boss again, she did not hate her as much as before. She frowned and did not speak for a long time. Still, Long Fei and Gu Qishao remained unmoved. Long Fei's expression was as cold as ever, while Gu Qishao looked as if he had nothing to do with this old man even if the sky collapsed. Why are you so good to her? You're here for Immerse's sword spirit, right? Gu asked disdainfully. The one-armed man explained calmly, she's a girl that everyone dotes on. I can't bear for her to be alone and without anyone to rely on. This has nothing to do with Immerse's sword spirit. You can coax her or lie to her. There are plenty of reasons and excuses. Why did you choose Immerse's sword spirit? You should know that even if you take Immerse's sword spirit, she doesn't have the ability to control it. Han Yunxi finally opened her mouth. Why is your arm broken? Long Fei Yi asked. The one-armed man smiled bitterly. He didn't expect that he still couldn't deceive these people. He asked, who are you people? He looked at Long Fei Yi. Are you a disciple of Sky Mountain? Actually, if it was someone from the Jianghu who had seen Long Fei Yi's swordsmanship, they could probably guess Long Fei Yi's identity. This one-armed man did not seem to be aware of the recent happenings in the Jianghu. You haven't answered my question. Long Fei Yi retorted. The one-armed man sighed and finally admitted his selfishness. I'm training in the evil sword sex inner chi. Although it's fast, it's easy for me to suffer from backlash and go berserk. This arm of mine is precisely because I went berserk and crippled myself. If I can't find a treasure sword that can withstand my inner chi, 3 months later, my internal injuries will relapse. My other arm. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep it. I'm a blacksmith and my master forced me to learn martial arts. I've never stepped into the Jianghu and have no intention of doing so. I just want to keep this arm. The one-armed man looked at the lady boss and lowered his voice. I just want to protect her for the rest of her life. Long Fei Yi was surprised. This guy had suffered internal injuries and he did not see it. He pulled the man's hand to check his pulse. Chapter 1005. After Long Fei Yi checked the man's pulse, he finally believed the one-armed man's words. Other than being surprised, he was also shocked. When he was learning swordsmanship, his master rarely talked about the evil sword school's swordsmanship and mental cultivation methods. He only said that it was not the right path and that seeking speed would lead to self-destruction. He only knew that the evil sword school's swordsmanship mental cultivation method was known as the evil Kenshin technique. Once it reached a certain level, there would be a backlash. As for the rest, he did not know much and was not interested. But from the looks of it, the evil sword school's swordsmanship did not lose to Tianshan Kenzo's nirvana force. If it was not for the backlash, the one-armed man's swordsmanship would be even better. He might even be able to compete with his current swordsmanship and inner strength. In other words, the flaws of the evil sword school's mental cultivation method were not unavoidable. As long as one could find a suitable treasure sword, he could avoid all the flaws and not go astray. He might even surpass Tianshan Kenzo's Nirvana heart technique. The one-armed man's swordsmanship was superb. That was why he needed the help of Mose's treasure sword spirit. If it was any other disciple of the evil sword sect, they would not need the power of Mose's treasure sword spirit. They only needed a treasure sword that could withstand a certain amount of power. There were not many treasured swords in the world, but there were many blacksmiths. As long as there were enough materials, the blacksmiths could create a good sword. Long Fei Ye's lustbite power was much stronger than the two Kenzo's mental cultivation methods. But if one person could not support the martial arts world, then one person could not be called Jianghu. Long Fei Yi had never put the evil sword school in his eyes. Now that he thought about it, if the evil sword school could break the evil Kenshin technique, they would become Tianshan Kenzo's greatest enemy. Who is your master? Long Fei Yi asked. I just said that master is from the evil sword school, but he left the evil sword school a long time ago and stopped caring about worldly affairs. The one-armed man was implying that Long Fei Yi should not disturb his master. However, since Long Fei Yi knew about these things, there was no way he wouldn't get to the bottom of it. What's his name? Why did he forcefully teach you swordsmanship? Long Fei Yi asked again. The one-armed man fell silent. You don't have the leverage to remain silent. Are you going to speak or not? Long Fei Ye's cold tone was full of threats. However, the one-armed man remained silent. Tell me, and we'll pretend that nothing happened today. You take the lady boss and leave Qingchuan Water City. We will help you deal with the aftermath of this case. If you don't tell us. Han Yunxi looked around, there's such a big commotion here. I'm sure the people from the magistrate court are already on their way. Long Fei Yi was a threat, while Han Yunxi was a carrot and stick. However, the one-armed man said, I can't betray my master. He has already left the evil sword school and has nothing to do with the evil sword school. Let him go. I won't make things difficult for people who aren't from the evil sword school. Long Fei Yi said. How many good people were there in the evil sword school? This one-armed man was a master swordsman and was forced to be taught martial arts. Long Fei Yi felt that this matter was not simple. This man might have been used. At this time, Su Donglin said in a low voice, Master, the Shadow Guard came to report that the people from the magistrate court will be here soon. Should we block them, or? No need to block them. Ask them to come over. Long Fei Yi said. The one-armed man panicked, I'll talk. Long Fei Yi waved his hand, indicating for Su Donglin to bring people to block the officers. You don't have much time. Long Fei Yi reminded him. In other words, the one-armed man did not have the time or opportunity to lie. The one-armed man steeled his heart and told the truth, my master is the former sect leader of the evil sword school, by Shanqing. Upon hearing this name, Long Fei Yi immediately knew what was going on. There weren't many good people in the evil sword school, but this Bai Shanqing was a person worthy of respect. He had never seen him before, but he heard his master mention him. This Bai Shanqing was a mysterious person. He was gifted since he was young. Because he was adopted by the sect leader of the evil sword school, he learned the evil sword school's mantras and swordsmanship. Because the former sect leader passed away, he was promoted to the position of sect leader. When you were in power, you had many restrictions on the disciples of the evil sword school. You even talked to your Kenshin master about the two schools merging. Unfortunately, the good times did not last long. Bai Shanqing went mad during one of his closed-door training and killed dozens of disciples. Since then, he took the blame and abdicated. He went into seclusion and never appeared again. The one-armed man looked at Long Fei Yi and said seriously, Your Excellency's swordsmanship is superb. You must be a disciple of the peak of Tianshan Mountain. You must have heard of my master's name. Although my master. Long Fei Yi interrupted the one-armed man's explanation. The name, by Shanqing, was enough to explain everything. Why did he force you to learn swordsmanship? Long Fei Yi said lightly. The one-armed man said helplessly, Master said that I was gifted. As long as I had the help of a treasured sword, would be able to master the evil Kenshin technique and fulfill his final wish. Long Fei Yi's eyes flashed with a complicated look. It seemed that Bai Shanqing already knew the way to break the evil Kenshin technique. However, he did not return to the evil sword school. He probably did not want to cause a conflict between the two schools. Think about it. If the people of the evil sword school knew that the evil Kenshin technique could be broken, they would definitely not be willing to be under Tianshan Kenzo. They would definitely have the ambition to compete with Tianshan Kenzo for the title of martial arts master. If Tianshan Kenzo knew that the evil sword school had a way to break the evil sword school's mental cultivation technique, they would definitely be wary and even take action. This one-armed man knew nothing about the martial arts master. Even if he broke the evil Kenshin technique, he would not have the heart to step into the martial arts master. For the sake of your master, you can leave. Long Fei Yi said lightly. The one-armed man was overjoyed. He could not help but ask, You? Who are you? Do you know my master? When you see your master, tell him that I am the disciple of the Kenzo's old man, Long Fei Yi. Ask him if he is well. Long Fei Yi said lightly. This time, the one-armed man was shocked. You are the East Qin Crown Prince. Although he did not ask about the martial arts master, the one-armed man had heard of Long Fei Yi's famous name. The one-armed man did not hesitate. He bowed to Long Fei Yi and picked up the female boss to leave. However, Han Yunqi shouted, Don't go. The one-armed man was shocked. He thought that Long Fei Yi would regret letting him go. However, Han Yunqi said to Long Fei Yi, Let them leave with us. Everyone, think of a way to save his arm. The one-armed man was stunned. His face was filled with disbelief. Actually, he was already surprised that Long Fei Yi would let them go for his master's sake. He never thought that a woman like Han Yunqi would say something like this. This woman had just poisoned him and warned him. Every word she said was the most vicious he had ever seen. Although Han Yunqi did not know what kind of person Bai Shanqing was and did not know why Long Fei Yi would let them go so easily. However, she knew that Long Fei Yi had a good reason for doing things. She also had a good reason for doing this. Since Han Yunqi had spoken, how could Long Fei Yi refuse? Gu Qishao had no objections. Their group immediately left the Yin-Yang Lake and returned to the female boss's shop. After the one-armed man settled the female boss down, he came to the backyard and personally served everyone tea. Gu glanced at the tea and did not touch it. Although he was not as addicted to tea as Long Fei Yi, he was still very picky when it came to tea. Just from the color of the tea, he knew that the tea was coarse. However, Long Fei Yi drank it without batting an eyelid. He did not look disgusted. Han Yunqi held the cup. She looked like she was drinking, but in fact, she did not take half a sip. She had not drunk tea for a long time. After everyone rested for a while, Han Yunqi said, I haven't asked for your name. The one-armed man quickly stood up. My surname is Yi and my name is Shao. This madam must be the princess of Western Qin, right? Just call me Han Yunqi, Han Yunqi said calmly. The one-armed man was filled with emotions. Since he had met this couple, what else could he do other than admit defeat? Han Yunqi did not beat around the bush. She said directly, Yi Shao, how about we make a deal? I'd like to hear the details, Yi Shao said seriously. Long Fei Yi and I will think of a way to help you keep your arm. You have to promise me one thing, Han Yunqi said. What is it? Yi Shao quickly asked. It's a secret. Han Yunshi was very serious. From now on, you are not allowed to say a word about the Yin-Yang Lake to anyone. Yi Xiao quickly replied, Princess, don't worry. I will not say a word. Han Yunshi nodded. I believe you. She looked at Long Fei Yi and asked, how about I borrow your Profound Frost Sword? The Profound Frost Sword was Tianshan Kenzo's #1 sword. Moreover, it had been trained by Long Fei Yi for many years. It had long been strengthened along with Long Fei Yi's internal energy. You're smart. Long Fei Yi smiled. Other than Han Yunshi, no one else had touched the Profound Frost Sword since it had fallen into his hands. However, since Han Yunshi had spoken, how could he not agree? If Immerse's sword spirit had a sword body, it would definitely be stronger than the Profound Frost Sword. However, the Profound Frost Sword would not be that weak either. Long Fei Yi had just taken Yi Xiao's pulse and roughly estimated his internal injuries. He had a rough idea of this matter. Han Yunshi smiled. Are you going to lend it to me or not? Long Fei Yi was helpless. He said to Yi Xiao, go into seclusion with me for 3 days. Yi Xiao was overjoyed. However, he quickly became worried. Lin Gu was the lady boss. When the lady boss woke up, he did not know what she would be like. Han Yunshi narrowed her eyes and said fiercely, don't worry. I guarantee that she won't wake up before you come out of seclusion. Han Yunshi had plenty of poison to make the lady boss unconscious. Yi Xiao wanted to say something, but Han Yunshi interrupted, if you say any more nonsense, I'll pull you over. Yi Xiao had no choice but to agree. Just like this, Yi Xiao and Long Fei Yi began their seclusion for 3 days. During these 3 days, Han Yunshi and Gu did something. They helped Yi Xiao and the lady boss clean up the aftermath. They found 2 shadow guards to go to the magistrate's office to plead guilty. At the same time, they handed in a poison dagger. The poison was naturally something that Han Yunshi had rubbed on. Half of the poison masters would not be able to detect it, but Bai Yanqing would definitely recognize it. Han Yunshi's move was to guard against Bai Yanqing. If Bai Yanqing heard about the murder case in Qingchuan Water City and suspected the 7 Demons dagger, he would definitely come to investigate. Since Bai Yanqing was searching for the perplexing butterfly illusion, he would definitely know about the perplexing butterfly illusion and several catalysts that could break his immortal body. Therefore, when they searched for the fire of 10,000 poisons, they would still have to be cautious against Bai Yanqing. As for the shadow guards who went to plead guilty, they could only suffer a bit of jail time. When the limelight died down, someone would naturally come to rescue them. Han Yunshi and Gu also arranged a large sum of money for the victims' families as compensation. If the magistrate's office caught the real culprit, the families might not be able to receive compensation. There were many things that could not be done perfectly. It was impossible to distinguish between right and wrong, gains and losses. Han Yunshi told herself that it was fine as long as she did her best. 3 days later, Long Fei Yi and Yi Xiao came out of seclusion. Chapter 1006. After Long Fei Yi and Yi Xiao came out of closed-door cultivation, Long Fei Yi wanted to open the door but Yi Xiao stopped him. He took a step back and gave a deep bow. Your Highness Crown Prince, I, Yi Xiao, will remember this kindness. If you need anything in the future, Yi Xiao will be at your beck and call. It's only a transaction, keep your secret well. Long Fei Yi said. Your Highness Crown Prince, I understand the princess' kindness. This bow, please accept it on behalf of the princess. Yi Xiao said and bowed again. Actually, if Han Yunshi wanted him to keep it a secret, there were many ways. She didn't need to spend so much effort to make a deal with him and help him keep his arm. In these 3 days, Not only did Long Fei help him heal his internal injuries, he also made use of the profound frost sword to help him pass through a huge calamity. He had already cultivated to the 8th level of the evil Kenshin technique. Although without the aid of the sword, he was unable to continue cultivating. But the 8th level of the evil Kenshin technique was enough for him to protect himself. He had already far surpassed those expert swordsmen in the pugilistic world. Without the help of an expert like Long Fei, even if he obtained Immerse's sword, he could only keep his arm. Without 1 or 2 years, he would not be able to break through to the 8th level. This kindness, how could it be repaid with just a sentence of, "Keep it a secret"? Han Yunxi purposely used the transaction as an excuse to help him, or perhaps, she didn't want him to be too embarrassed. Actually, Han Yunxi wasn't afraid that Yi Xiao would be too embarrassed. She just didn't like to see others being deeply grateful. On this point, Long Fei understood her very well. Long Fei generously accepted Yi Xiao's thanks before opening the door and walking out. Han Yunxi and Gu were already waiting at the door. On seeing Long Fei come out, Han Yunxi hurriedly went up to wipe away Long Fei's sweat. "Are you tired?" In these 3 days, Long Fei assisted Yi Xiao in closed-door cultivation and also took time out to complete dual cultivation with Han Yunxi. It would be strange if he wasn't tired. Not tired, it went very smoothly. Long Fei said indifferently. He lowered his head slightly so that Han Yunxi could wipe his sweat. Gu was watching by the side and suddenly turned to look at them. But not long later, he turned back to look at Han Yunxi and Long Fei and looked at them and became distracted. God knows what he was thinking. Yi Xiao did not delay and hurried to look for the lady boss. Seeing that she was still unconscious, he panicked. "Princess, where's the antidote? Why are you being so nice to her? You shouldn't bully your friend's wife, don't you understand?" Han Yunxi said coldly. Gu, who had just reached the door and was about to enter, stopped abruptly when he heard this. Yi Xiao lowered his head and squeezed out a sentence after a while. "She needs someone to take care of her right now." In other words, the lady boss's husband was no longer around, so he wasn't bullying his friend's wife. "She must be crazy to accept your care. She'll only wake up half a day after taking the antidote." Han Yunxi threw down the antidote and turned to leave. Gu hurriedly escaped and jumped onto the roof. He almost didn't succeed in hiding. He sat on the roof and stared blankly at Han Yunxi's thin but carefree figure for a long time. He didn't want to think too much about what Han Yunxi had just said, but he couldn't help but think about it and link it to himself. Inside the room, Yi Xiao didn't agree with Han Yunxi's words. He muttered to himself, "It's fine as long as she needs it." Yes, it is one thing to accept, it is another to need. It wasn't until Long Fei and Han Yunxi were about to bid farewell to Yi Xiao that Gu came down from the roof and silently stood behind Han Yunxi. "Your Highness Crown Prince, my master is living in seclusion in Mount Li. In a few days, I will bring Lin Gu to Mount Li. I will definitely keep the matter of Yinyang Lake a secret," Yi Xiao said seriously. Long Fei only nodded and said nothing. Yi Xiao hesitated for a moment, but he still looked at Han Yunxi. "Princess, there's one thing that this one doesn't understand. I hope you can enlighten me." "What is it?" Han Yunxi asked. "How did Princess know that Sui Yun's corpse was hidden in the lake?" Yi Xiao asked curiously. If it weren't for the discovery of Sui Yun's corpse, these two probably wouldn't have thought of the matter of the gathering bones. "It's a secret." Han Yunxi definitely wouldn't reveal the true secret of the Seven Fiends' dagger. Unexpectedly, Yi Xiao said, "Since Princess won't say, then you can be at ease. This one won't reveal any secrets." After Yi Xiao finished speaking, he bowed to Han Yunxi with his hands clasped. He retreated into the room and slowly closed the door. Han Yunxi was stunned at first, but then she smiled. Yi Xiao wasn't stupid. He could tell that she wanted to help them. If that was the case, then wouldn't this trip count as making a friend? Han Yunxi felt that it was better to forget each other in the Jianghu. She didn't know that her kindness today would bring her great help in the future. Looking at the tightly shut door of true love, Han Yunxi sighed softly. She could only pretend that this matter was over. She said to Long Feiyi, "Let's go. We still have business to attend to." After they returned to the inn, Han Yunxi immediately took out the Seven Fiends dagger and the perplexing butterfly illusion at the same time. Just like with the previous poisons, when she dripped a drop of perplexing butterfly illusion onto the Seven Fiends dagger, the sturdy dagger was gradually corroded by the perplexing butterfly illusion. It sizzled and emitted a white smoke. When the white smoke dissipated, the originally long dagger had actually been corroded into a small red teardrop the size of a teardrop. If it was before, Han Yunxi would have tried mixing the poisonous teardrops in her possession to see what would happen. But now, she directly collected the poisonous teardrops from the perplexing butterfly illusion and the gold of 10,000 poisons and stored them in a special bottle. Now that she knew the true secret of the perplexing butterfly illusion, she didn't have to waste so much effort in conducting so many experiments. Now, she had the water, earth, wood, and gold of 10,000 poisons in her possession. She had also obtained the corpse blood and beauty's blood. Now, she had 6 blood teardrops in her possession. Only the fire of 10,000 poisons, poison goo blood, and poison beast blood were left. The poison goo blood and poison beast blood were with Bai Yanqing. Therefore, their next biggest mission was to find the fire of 10,000 poisons. It had to be said that this trip to Qingchuan Water City had gone much smoother than Han Yunxi and the others had imagined. They had originally thought that it would be delayed until after the new year. Who would have thought that they would be able to settle the matter in less than 10 days after arriving at Qingchuan Water City? Seeing Han Yunxi put the gold of 10,000 poisons into her poison storage space, Long Feiyi and Gu finally relaxed. This matter could finally be considered completely settled. Long Feiyi raised his eyebrows and looked at Gu. He said coldly, "Why don't you show me a few moves?" Gu played dumb. "What?" Long Feiyi's gaze immediately turned cold. Gu had no choice but to do as he was told. Gu asked Long Feiyi to have something on him. Long Feiyi must have guessed the truth about the thorny vines. Long Feiyi must also know the reason why he was able to subdue Mo Xie's sword spirit. Han Yunxi, however, knew nothing about it. She was curious as to what effect Mo Xie's sword spirit would have on Gu's swordsmanship. Gu went to the courtyard and pulled out his sword. Just as he swung his sword, Long Feiyi and Han Yunxi immediately saw a faint white shadow on his sword. "What's that?" Han Yunxi asked, puzzled. Long Feiyi didn't say anything. He struck out with his palm and immediately broke Gu's sword. Gu's sword fell to the ground and Han Yunxi immediately saw the white shadow clearly. That white shadow was a sword that had a shape but no substance. "That's the sword spirit?" Han Yunxi asked. Long Feiyi replied indifferently. Gu simply threw away the broken sword's hilt. He held a white sword shadow and waved it around. Although this sword shadow had a shape but no substance, the sword aura didn't lose to Gu's sword at all. Moreover, it could cut through iron like it was mud. In just 2 or 3 moves, it chopped down a tree in the courtyard. Han Yunxi watched in disbelief. She couldn't imagine how strong Mo Xie's sword would be if it could be forged into a treasured sword that could withstand this sword spirit. As soon as Gu Qishao withdrew his sword, it vanished without a trace. He walked towards Han Yunxi and smiled, "Poison lass, wait for me to forge a sword, then I'll give Mo Xie to you." Before Han Yunxi could speak, Long Feiyi said coldly, "Mo Xie will be sent to you first." Gu pretended to be a hostage. In fact, he wanted to obtain Immerse's sword spirit and give it to Han Yunxi as a gift. How could Long Feiyi not see through him? No, this thing is too evil. I don't like it. Han Yunxi rejected. She said, Gu, next time something like this happens, please don't act alone, okay? Okay. Gu readily agreed. He knew that Han Yunxi was worried about him, so he didn't explain. Gu thought to himself, once the sword is forged, I'll find a reason to give it to Han Yunxi. Maybe she'll want it then. He didn't know that Long Feiyi had already set his sights on the Ganjiang treasured sword on Heaven Mountain. Ganjiang and Immerse were a pair, after all. Han Yunxi really didn't have much interest in swords. She asked, rest for a day, then we'll return to three-way black market tomorrow. Including the time they spent heading south, they'd been gone for almost a month. If they returned, they'd have to spend another half a month. Yesterday, Long Feiyi had just received Gu Beiyue's secret letter. Myriad Merchant Hall and East Origin Hall were doing well. Tiger's prison was also very peaceful. Bai Yuqiao was doing his best to take care of Ning Jing and the others. As for the battlefield, Northern Li's civil war had completely erupted. Zhu Nixia went north, and so did the southern forces of Northern Li. Furthermore, Zhu Nixia had already arranged for the third batch of warhorses from the retreating Winter Crow country, as well as his cavalry. Gu Beiyue estimated that in half a month's time, the third batch of warhorses would be sent to the battlefield. This cavalry would move from west to east, joining forces with Zhu Nixia and the southern forces to besiege the Northern Dynasty's emperors. Although the battle was progressing faster and more fiercely than they'd imagined, everything was still under Long Feiyi's control. Zhu Nixia and the Northern Dynasty's emperors were still evenly matched. Zhu Nixia was surrounded from all sides, and the Northern Dynasty's emperors weren't willing to be outdone. Apart from dividing their forces to defend, they also concentrated an elite force to face Zhu Nixia head-on. Long Feiyi had also received news from noble consort Xiao yesterday and learned a lot about the battle. The information that Ning Jing had asked Bai Yuqiao to inquire about, Gu Beiyue's personal observation, and noble consort Zhao's report were basically the same. In the next month or two, Zhu Nixia and the Northern Dynasty's emperors would gradually reveal all of their forces. Long Feiyi predicted that the true battle between the two sides would only break out in the 12th month at the earliest. Although the civil war had broken out, it was still just a small skirmish. And for both sides to suffer heavy losses, it would be spring at the earliest. Thus, even if they returned now, they still wouldn't be able to save Ning Jing and Mu Ling. Once they made a move, Zhu Nixia, that paranoid fellow, would definitely suspect something. At the very least, he would suspect Ning Qing. Then, Ning Qing would be in great danger. Long Fei said, there's still at least 2 months before we go back. Let's go back and find out where the fire of 10,000 poisons is. Mo said, there was a bug in yesterday's update. The bug with the one-armed man, you know. Chapter 1007. Although they were looking for the metal of 10,000 poisons earlier than planned, Han Yunxi and the others still couldn't make it back in time to save Mu Ling, and the others. In order to keep Zhu Nixia in check, they could only wait. The Ning clan troops also had another important task, taming those 30,000 horses. Long Feiyi had never asked about the horses, but Han Yunxi had enough authority to do so. She'd asked twice since leaving three-way black market. Deputy General Xue had already taken care of the horse trainers Zhu Nixia had sent and would soon begin taming the horses. There was another important matter, and that was Bai Yanqing. It was often said that no news was good news, but this saying didn't apply to Bai Yanqing. Just because there was no news from Bai Yanqing didn't mean he wasn't making a move. Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi couldn't figure out what Bai Yanqing was planning. If he was trying to drive a wedge between Eastern and Western Qin before, what was he up to now? Why did Bai Yanqing hate Eastern and Western Qin so much? There were too many suspicious points about Bai Yanqing, just like the mysterious person in the poison sect's forbidden grounds. Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi had no clue what to do, but they couldn't ignore or forget about him. They couldn't guard against Bai Yanqing, so they could only find the fire of 10,000 poisons as soon as possible. With Gu around, Long Feiyi wouldn't mind luring Bai Yanqing out for a good fight once they found the fire of 10,000 poisons. Alright, then let's wait a little longer, Han Yunxi agreed with Long Feiyi's plan. Gu seemed to be in a daze and didn't express his opinion. It wasn't until Long Feiyi glanced at him that he came to his senses. Alright, no problem. Actually, he really didn't hear what Long Feiyi said just now, so he just casually agreed. Do you have any news about the fire of 10,000 poisons? Long Feiyi asked again. There's no news at all. Gu didn't start looking for it recently. He had been looking for it since a year ago. Unfortunately, there was no news at all. In fact, if he hadn't heard of the Seven Evils dagger, they probably wouldn't have found the gold of 10,000 poisons this time. Long Feiyi had also sent the Shadow Guard to investigate, but the results were the same as Gu's. Is the fire of 10,000 poisons a flame? Or is it some other form of heat? Han Yunxi asked in confusion. She couldn't figure out how the fire of 10,000 poisons could exist in such a form. For example, the fire in the 5 elements was not just a flame, but a general term for heat energy. Gu shook his head. He had some ideas about the previous 4 poisons, but he had no clue about the fire of 10,000 poisons. Was the fire of 10,000 poisons an earthly fire, a heavenly fire, or a furnace fire? Was it a flame that had always been burning, or a flame that had yet to be ignited? If it was a flame that had always been burning, then it would be easy to find it. If it wasn't a flame that had yet to be ignited, or if it wasn't an open flame, then it would be really difficult to find it. Let's rest for a few days and think about it carefully. It was rare for Gu to be so serious. Okay. Han Yunxi was also serious. In this way, Han Yunxi and the others settled down in Qinchuan Water City. They inquired about the fire of 10,000 poisons, paid attention to the situation in Northernly, and also inquired about Bai Yanqing's whereabouts. On this day, Han Yunxi suddenly received a letter from the medicine hut. After reading the letter, she immediately ran to Long Feiyi in the courtyard excitedly. Long Feiyi, good news. I have good news. Han Yunxi looked so excited that it was as if she had found the whereabouts of the fire of 10,000 poisons. Before Long Fei could ask, Gu Qishao jumped down from the roof with a grin. Poison lass, what's the good news to make you so happy? Our Dr. Gu can be saved. Han Yunxi was really happy, even happier than when she had found the fire of 10,000 poisons. Really? Where did this news come from? Long Feiyi was also excited. He had asked many people to find the dragon pill, so he really couldn't guess who had delivered the good news. Who found the medicine? You're even faster than me. You're quite capable. Gu was also smiling. However, Han Yunxi's next words made him instantly freeze. Han Yunxi said, "Old man of alchemy." He didn't find the dragon pill, but he obtained the prescription to refine the dragon pill. He has also found a few ingredients, and he's only missing one thing. He needs our help to deliver it. Gu's smile instantly froze on his face. Long Feiyi quickly asked, "What is it?" "Wine. To refine the dragon pill, we need snow wine that has been aged for 100 years. Han Yunxi smiled. This thing. Ning Qing should have it. The so-called snow wine was wine brewed using snow water as water. Snow that had been accumulated for more than 10 years was melted into water. After it had settled, the top layer of water was used to brew wine. This was ordinary snow wine. As for 100-year-old snow wine, not only did it require the melted snow of more than 100 years to brew, it also had to be sealed for more than 100 years. Many 100-year-old wines on the market were actually fake. It was really difficult to find a bottle of genuine 100-year-old wine. Needless to say, snow wine. To drink good tea, look for long fei yi. To take good medicine, look for gu. To drink good wine, look for ning ching. Su Donglin, write a letter to Myriad Merchant Hall and ask. Long Fei Yi immediately ordered. Other than Han Yunxi's matter, he had rarely been so agitated. Su Donglin, while you're at it, tell this news to Gu Beiyue. Han Yunxi quickly added. She was already looking forward to seeing Gu Beiyue's shadow art again. The white-clothed gentleman of the past was about to return. If the little thing knew this good news, it would definitely be very happy. Yes, this subordinate will do it right away. Su Donglin was also excited. Once Gu Beiyue recovered, His Highness and the princess would have another helping hand. After Su Donglin left, Han Yunxi turned around and realized that Gu had disappeared. Where is he? Han Yunxi asked suspiciously. Long Fei Yi didn't notice Gu slip away just now. He glanced at the roof, but didn't see Gu's figure. Han Yunxi then remembered something. She muttered, could it be? Long Fei Yi immediately understood what Han Yunxi was talking about. He only said 2 words, let him be. Han Yunxi remembered nothing else but the matter of the old man of alchemy asking her to find a disciple. The old man of alchemy said that if Han Yunxi could help him find a disciple, he would give the entire alchemy furnace to Han Yunxi. Back then, there was an agreement in black and white. Han Yunxi had kept the contract with her all this time. At that time, Han Yunxi suspected that the little madman that the old man of alchemy was looking for was Gu. She tried to sound him out twice, but Gu avoided her both times. She didn't try again. She wouldn't force Gu to do anything for the sake of an alchemy furnace. 3 days later, Han Yunxi received a reply from Myriad Merchant Hall's first elder. Ning Cheng's wine cellar did indeed have 100-year-old snow wine. Moreover, it wasn't just 1 jar, but 3 jars. Although they couldn't get Ning Cheng's consent, both Han Yunxi and the first elder decided to act first and report later. When Han Yunxi told the old man of alchemy about the 100-year-old snow wine and was about to arrange for someone to deliver it, the old man of alchemy sent a letter with an unexpected request. The old man of alchemy wanted Han Yunxi to stay in the alchemy furnace for 3 years to serve as great alchemy furnace. Otherwise, not only would he not know how to refine pills, he would also destroy the pill recipe. At this time, everyone remembered the rules of the medicine requesting cave. It was never easy to obtain medicine from the medicine requesting cave. Damn it! Han Yunxi's good mood completely disappeared. When she begged the old man of alchemy to find the dragon pill, she seriously asked for the conditions again and again. That old madman was easy to negotiate. He said that old friends didn't need to be so particular. He even said that he would do his best to help them find the medicinal pills. Long Fei Yi didn't feel at ease and had her write another letter to clearly state the conditions. In the end, the old man of alchemy made 2 requests. The first was for Han Yunxi to thoroughly investigate the effects of the dragon pill. The second was for Han Yunxi to take a few of her precious poisons. Although there was no contract between them, Han Yunxi still kept all the letters they'd exchanged in the past. She knew that the alchemy hut old man had a strange temperament and was temperamental. However, temper wasn't an excuse to go back on his word. Who would have thought that the old madman would make such an unreasonable request and want her to serve the great alchemy furnace? Could it be that the old madman still held a grudge against her for threatening to destroy the great alchemy furnace in the medicine-requesting cave? Don't even think about it, Long Fei said. When they went to ask for medicine back then, they were still afraid of the power of Medicine Hut and Medicine City. But now, in the eyes of Long Fei and Han Yunxi, Medicine City and Medicine Hut were no longer unshakable. Medical City had long been under the control of Gu Beiyue. In the past 2 years, Long Fei and Han Yunxi had joined forces with the Medicine Ghost Valley to cultivate some real power in Medicine City. They no longer had to rely on Medicine City in the medicinal market. Su Donglin, tell the old man of alchemy that we've already agreed on the conditions for him to find the medicine. If he comes back with any more requests, it'll be blackmail. There's a price to pay for blackmailing this princess. Tell him to refine the medicinal pills within 10 days, or else. Han Yunxi was pondering how to threaten the old man of alchemy in a way that would have deterrence when Long Fei bluntly said, or else, this prince will personally destroy his alchemy furnace. Long Fei's threat directly hit the old man of alchemy's vital point. Yes. Su Donglin obeyed and left. Gu sat on the roof and looked at them with raised brows, not saying a word. Han Yunxi and Long Fei soon received a reply from the old man of alchemy. The old man of alchemy replied with 2 words, no way. Long Fei had never received such a simple yet provocative letter in his life. Han Yunxi looked at the 2 large words in the letter and was a bit stunned. She knew that they would have to personally make a trip to the alchemy furnace. Long Fei coldly said, Su Donglin, bring brush and ink. Su Donglin quickly brought over the brush and ink. Long Fei raised the brush and wrote 2 words, seeking death. After the letter was sent out, Long Fei immediately gave the order, prepare the carriage. We're going to the medicinal hut. He looked at Gu and Gu immediately jumped off the roof with an indifferent expression. He laughed and said, I haven't been to Medicine City in a long time. I miss the medicinal fragrance there. Long Fei's face was cold as he said in a low voice, the old man from the medicinal hut didn't keep his word first. It's best if you don't interfere in this matter. A complicated look flashed in Gu's eyes, but he continued to play dumb. What does it have to do with this elder? For Gu Beiyue's sake, this elder will go with you. We've already agreed that this elder will go to the medicinal hut. Chapter 1008. It was also good that Gu didn't enter the medicine-requesting cave. Han Yunxi glanced at him but didn't say anything. She only acted as if she didn't understand anything. She only knew that no matter what, they were not in the wrong on this trip to the medicine hut. Even if they really had to make a move, they had to bring back the dragon pill. On the same day, Han Yunxi's group left Qingchuan Water City and secretly headed in the direction of Medicine City. Gu didn't say anything and led the way on horseback as usual. Moreover, he specially chose a shortcut from Qingchuan Water City to Medicine City. It only took a little more than 10 days. Along the way, Han Yunxi and Long Fei were still very busy. Almost every day, they received letters from different places that required their attention. Every night, no matter how busy they would still take time out to dual cultivate. Bailey Mingxiang also didn't idle around. He practiced martial arts seriously and often sought out Su Donglin for guidance. Gu didn't care about anything else. He was only responsible for inquiring about the fire of 10,000 poisons. They headed northwest. Time was like the axle of a carriage, constantly moving day and night. At this time, Ning Jing's belly was almost 7 months old. No matter how loose her clothes were, they couldn't hide it. When she was 5 or 6 months pregnant, it didn't seem to be that big. However, when she was 7 months pregnant, her belly suddenly swelled up like a balloon. Ning Jing clearly felt that it was becoming more and more inconvenient for her to move around. She also found it harder and harder to sleep at night. The maids and guards in the courtyard were all by Yu Qiao's people. Whatever Ning Jing needed, she could use Mu Ling as an excuse to send it in. Now, it seemed that everything was still relatively safe. In Tiger's prison, Su Xiaoyu lived in the small courtyard. Ning Jing, Mu Ling and Deacon Jean lived in the large courtyard. Mu Ling had once asked Bai Yuqiao to arrange for Su Xiaoyu to live in the large courtyard and drive Deacon Jean and Uncle Qing to the small courtyard. After all, it was inconvenient for men and women to live together. Moreover, Ning Jing's pregnancy had always been hidden from Deacon Jean and Uncle Qing. However, Bai Yuqiao didn't agree. Although most of the things in Tiger's prison were arranged by her, she still had to guard against Jun Yixia's suspicions. She knew how suspicious Jun Yixia was more than anyone else. It was actually not easy to hide Ning Jing's pregnancy until now. Ning Jing still needed 3 months to give birth. If everything went well, Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi would come to save people in about a month and a half, according to Ning Cheng's promise before. With her cooperation from the inside and Long Feiyi and Han Yunxi's ability, it was not difficult to save a few people from Tiger's prison. Bai Yuqiao was most afraid that Ning Jing would give birth prematurely. When the child was in the belly, everything was easy to hide. However, once the child was born, Jun Yixia would definitely send people to take the child away. At that time, it would be troublesome. In addition to taking care of Ning Jing and the others, Bai Yuqiao went to the small courtyard to see Su Xiaoyu every day. Her attitude toward Su Xiaoyu was still the same as before. She threatened and panicked from time to time, but she never really did anything to her. No one knew how much she was afraid that Su Xiaoyu would know the truth. Su Xiaoyu didn't understand anything. She only thought that Ning Qing was protecting her. Bai Yuqiao took care of everyone in Tiger's prison, but she also paid attention to the situation of Northern Li's civil war and her senior brother's safety. Every night, she sat alone on Su Xiaoyu's roof and read the letters sent from the battlefield. She was conflicted in her heart. She couldn't make a choice and had mixed feelings. She had no choice but to taste all kinds of pain herself. She had grown up and followed her master for so many years. Even if she had suffered great grievances, she had never thought of a question: who were her parents and whether they were still alive. However, these few nights, she couldn't help but think about them. She couldn't help but yearn for a warm embrace. Did little Yu ever think of her parents and home? Bai Yuqiao wasn't the only one who couldn't sleep in the quiet night. Ning Jing tossed and turned on the bed. With her big belly, she felt uncomfortable no matter how she laid down. She was always afraid that she would squash the child in her belly. Her longing for Tangli didn't fade with time. Instead, it grew stronger, especially in the middle of the night. She always wanted to know what Tangli was doing. She always missed the bowl of red bean porridge that Tangli personally cooked. Mu Ling was also awake. She slept on the warm bed on the right side of Ning Jing's bed and personally kept watch for Ning Jing. When she heard Ning Jing tossing and turning, she said, "Sister Jing, you can't sleep again. Why aren't you asleep yet?" Ning Jing was very surprised. Mu Ling didn't move just now, so she thought that the girl was asleep. "I miss Qi brother." Mu Ling was always so simple and pure. She said whatever was on her mind, and her happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy were all written on her face. "He doesn't miss you. Why do you miss him?" Ning Jing asked seriously. She had never had a good impression of Gu. Mu Ling unconsciously stroked her flat belly and muttered, "Sister Jing, I've been pretending for too long. I've almost been fooled by myself. I've dreamed so many times that I'm really pregnant with Chi brother's child. She had been wearing a fake belly for so long. If she hadn't taken it off when she slept, she would have really thought that she was pregnant. After acting for so long, it was easy to get into character. Ning Jing was stunned at first, but then she burst out laughing. Mu Ling you're still so young and you're already having wet dreams. Mu Ling panicked and sat up immediately. I didn't. Then how did you really get pregnant with Goose Child? Ning Jing asked. It's. Mu Ling blushed. I dreamed that Chi brother touched my belly and smiled at me. He looked really good when he smiled. If Gu knew about Mu Ling's dream, would he still be able to smile? Ning Jing did laugh. She didn't know what to say about Mu Ling. This girl was both funny and pitiful. Why did Gu not care about her? Mu Ling looked at Ning Jing's smile and didn't say anything. There was a hint of hesitation in her big clear eyes. When Ning Jing stopped, she got off the bed and nestled beside Ning Jing. Sister Jing, can I ask you a question? Mu Ling asked in a low voice. Go ahead. Ning Jing was very suspicious. This girl was so close to her. What did she want to say? Unexpectedly, Mu Ling asked, Sister Jing, Tang Li must have kissed you before, right? Ning Jing was silent for a moment. Then she quickly lifted the blanket and chased Mu Ling off the bed. I'm going to sleep. Little girl, don't ask so many questions. Sister Jing, how does it feel to be kissed? I dreamt that Chi brother kissed me, Mu Ling said anxiously. Luckily, the room was very dark. Otherwise, the blushing Ning Jing would have burrowed under the blanket. Although she had tormented Tang Li before and had also been tormented by Tang Li in various ways, she still felt very uncomfortable when discussing the topic of kissing with outsiders. Go down. I'm going to sleep. Don't disturb me. Ning Jing said unhappily. I'll just ask secretly. I promise I won't tell anyone, okay? Mu Ling pleaded in a low voice. You can ask your sister when you see her. Ning Jing pushed the problem to Han Yunxi. Unexpectedly, Mu Ling said timidly, I don't dare to ask her. Long Fei Yi is too scary. You're asking her, not Long Fei Yi. Ning Jing couldn't help but roll her eyes. But this has something to do with Long Fei Yi. Anyway, it's too scary. I won't ask. Mu Ling said seriously. If Ning Jing wasn't pregnant, she would have kicked Mu Ling off the bed. It wasn't easy to ask about Long Fei Yi, but it was easy to ask about Tang Li. What was this little girl thinking? Mu Ling begged twice more, but Ning Jing still didn't want to talk to her. Mu Ling had no choice but to get off the bed dejectedly. Ning Jing wasn't sleepy to begin with. Because Mu Ling brought up this topic, she couldn't calm down. She couldn't help but think about the times when Tang Li kissed her. Tang Li begged her relentlessly every time, but in the end, he always forced himself on her. Thinking about this, Ning Jing couldn't help but smile. She didn't dare to move around, afraid that Mu Ling would know that she wasn't asleep and come over to harass her again. Mu Ling waited for a long time. Seeing that Ning Jing didn't move, she really thought that Ning Jing was asleep. She wasn't sleepy to begin with. Now that the topic was brought up, she was even more upset and couldn't sleep. She got off the bed and went out to get some fresh air. Ning Jing only heaved a sigh of relief when Mu Ling closed the door. In the dark, she didn't see that Mu Ling had left her fake belly on the bed. Mu Ling was full of thoughts and didn't notice that she wasn't wearing her fake belly. After she went out, she walked straight ahead. She and Ning Jing lived in the backyard, while Deacon Jean and Uncle Ching lived in the front yard. There was a small garden in between. Mu Ling was strolling among the flowers. She was so bored that she kicked a small stone. Suddenly, a stone flew out from the right and knocked away the small stone she kicked out. "Who's there?" Mu Ling shouted sternly. She turned her head to look, but she didn't see anyone. She became alert and was about to walk forward. Unexpectedly, someone pressed down on her shoulder from behind. Mu Ling immediately squatted down and swept her leg out. The person behind her jumped up and kicked her fiercely. Mu Ling had no way to retreat and could only lean back to avoid it. Who knew that the moment she leaned back, the man would step on her, forcing her to lie on the ground while the man stepped on her lower abdomen. At this moment, Mu Ling finally saw who it was. It was none other than Deacon Jean. "Mu Ling, where's your child?" Deacon Jean asked coldly. Only then did Mu Ling realize that she didn't wear a fake belly. She felt a chill down her spine and broke out in a cold sweat. She felt like she was about to collapse. Deacon Jean stared at her flat lower abdomen and stepped on it forcefully. Mu Ling couldn't help but cry out, "It hurts. It hurts." Deacon Jean immediately let go of her and hurriedly squatted down to cover her mouth. "Shut up if you don't want to attract Uncle Ching." Mu Ling immediately shut up obediently. However, in the next moment, she couldn't help but scream. Because Deacon Jean had pressed his hand on her lower abdomen. Fortunately, Deacon Jin's other hand was covering Mu Ling's mouth to block out her scream. Otherwise, not only Uncle Ching, but everyone in the courtyard would have been woken up. Mu Ling's eyes widened. She used both hands to tug at Deacon Jin's hand and wriggled her body as hard as she could to struggle. Deacon Jean covered her mouth with one hand and pressed her stomach with the other to check. He didn't have any extra hands to restrain her, so he simply sat down on Mu Ling's lap. Chapter 1009. Deep in the night, the moon was like a hook. The posture of Deacon Jean and Mu Ling in the flower bed really made one's imagination run wild. However, neither of them realized that there was anything wrong with each other's posture. Deacon Jean pressed Mu Ling's flat stomach and finally confirmed that this woman wasn't pregnant at all. And Mu Ling was so frightened that she couldn't think straight. God, she had been discovered. What should she do? "Your pregnancy is fake." Deacon Jean stared at Mu Ling with a particularly serious gaze. Mu Ling had already given up struggling. She turned her head away and wanted to cry. She just got herself into trouble again, big trouble. Ning Jing had said that Uncle Ching had always been dissatisfied with the D clan's loyalty to the Western Qin royal family, and Deacon Jean wanted to regain his freedom. These two people couldn't be completely trusted. Since the pregnancy had been kept a secret, it had to be kept a secret until the end. Seeing that Mu Ling didn't answer, Deacon Jean growled, "Tell me." This growl was a little angry and anxious. Mu Ling didn't hear Deacon Jin's anxiety. She only knew that he was very angry. She thought that there wasn't a day when she didn't lie to Deacon Jean all the way from Three-Way Black Market to Northern Lee Sky River City. Although this guy's attitude wasn't good, he basically fulfilled all her requests. Whatever she wanted to eat, drink, or use, as long as she asked, he could do it no matter how difficult it was. Now that he knew that her pregnancy was fake, he must know that all her requests along the way were fake. Even Mu Ling felt that she wasn't lying, but playing with him. Deacon Jean leaned over, his fine bangs hanging down. From this angle, Mu Ling could finally see this guy's eyes clearly. She suddenly realized that the color in Deacon Jin's eyes wasn't anger, but she couldn't explain it, but no man had ever stared at her like that before. She couldn't help but look at it seriously. Gradually, she had a feeling that she was Deacon Jin's prey. Yes, prey. Deacon Jin was like a cheetah lurking in the dark. He had caught her and was scrutinizing her, ready to devour her at any moment. Mu Linger finally sobered up. She threw a punch at Deacon Jin. "Let go of me, hooligan." Her embroidered fist was immediately covered by Deacon Jin's large palm. Her other hand was about to strike, but Deacon Jin immediately held it down. Mu Linger's gaze slowly moved down from Deacon Jin's face. She finally discovered that this man was lying on top of her. "Ah!" Mu Linger screamed. Deacon Jin had no choice but to let go of her hand and cover her mouth. Mu Linger struggled with all her strength, kicking and scratching. Deacon Jin covered her mouth with one hand and pressed down on her shoulder with the other, preventing her from getting up. "Be quiet. If you attract other people over, I won't care about you," Deacon Jin warned in a cold voice. These words were like a curse, instantly freezing Mu Linger. That's right. If she attracted Uncle Ching over, or the guards guarding outside the courtyard, then her fake pregnancy would be completely exposed. Mu Linger didn't dare to move again. Only then did Deacon Jin release her mouth. Mu Linger lowered her eyes and looked at the two bodies pressed together. She didn't dare to say anything and used her hands to signal for Deacon Jin to get off her body. Deacon Jin immediately got up. Only then did Mu Linger exhale and stand up. But who knew that before she could stand firm, Deacon Jin suddenly pulled her and hurriedly fell backwards. Mu Linger completely lost her center of gravity. Her entire body was pulled down and fell onto Deacon Jin's body. Their noses were facing each other, and the distance between their lips could be said to be very close. Mu Linger was shocked. Before she could finish her sentence, Deacon Jin reached out and pressed the back of her head, pressing her down. At this moment, the two lips met. All of Mu Linger's words and all of her shock were stopped at Deacon Jin's lips. Mu Linger's mind went blank. She only felt that her lips were slightly soft and moist. She couldn't describe the feeling. Was this the feeling of kissing? Before Mu Linger could understand what this feeling was, Deacon Jin suddenly turned his face to the side. Mu Linger buried her head in his neck. She froze. She was so stiff that she didn't dare to move. Her lips were still slightly open. "Someone is coming from the front. It should be Uncle Ching." "You'd better behave," Deacon Jin said in a low voice. "Uncle Ching." Mu Linger was flustered, at a loss, and trembling with fear. She reflexively wanted to get up, but Deacon Jin pressed her back and said coldly, "Don't move." Mu Linger was frightened. She lay on Deacon Jin's body and didn't dare to move again. Just like that, the two of them quietly hid in the flower bed. After a while, Mu Linger also heard footsteps and walked over step by step. Her heart immediately raced, and her body trembled a little. Deacon Jin frowned. His expression was solemn as he hugged Mu Linger tightly with both hands, telling her not to be so nervous. The footsteps suddenly stopped, but quickly went to the right. After a few steps, they couldn't hear any movement. After waiting for a while, Mu Linger still didn't hear any footsteps. However, she didn't dare to act rashly anymore. After a while, there were still no footsteps. Mu Linger relaxed a little. She lowered her voice and asked Deacon Jin in his ear, "Uncle Ching, have they left?" Deacon Jin, who had been rather calm all this time, was clearly stunned for a moment. However, he quickly recovered and said in a low voice, "I'm not sure. Don't make a sound first." Mu Linger was very obedient. She continued to bury her head in Deacon Jin's neck. Time passed little by little. Unconsciously, Mu Linga relaxed and was no longer so nervous. She gradually realized that she was lying on a man's body and was being hugged by his arms. She couldn't help but think of the kiss just now, although she didn't know if it was considered a kiss. Gradually, she began to feel uneasy, awkward, and uncomfortable. Ever since she was young, other than being hugged by Chi brother once or twice, she had never been hugged by a man other than her father. She couldn't tell what the difference was. She just felt that the feeling of being hugged by Deacon Jin was different from being hugged by Chi brother. Why was it like this? Was it because Chi brother only hugged her for a while and then let go? He had never hugged her for so long and so tightly. She could feel the firmness and warmth of Deacon Jin's body. The more Mu Linga thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. It shouldn't be like this. However, she had no choice. She could only blame herself for being too careless when she went out tonight. Why did she go out all of a sudden? If she didn't go out and had a good night's sleep, this wouldn't have happened. Mu Linga began to feel uneasy. Deacon Jin, on the other hand, looked up at the starry sky. She didn't know what he was thinking. His usually cold and emotionless eyes were a little dazed and absent-minded. She waited and waited. Finally, Mu Linga couldn't help but ask, "Has Uncle Ching left?" Uncle Ching had actually left a long time ago. Deacon Jin didn't answer her. Instead, he asked indifferently, "Mu Linga, why did you lie? Why did you use your innocence to fool me? Was it fun?" Mu Linga remained silent. "Answer me." Deacon Jin's tone was still very indifferent. However, if Mu Linga raised her head to look at Deacon Jin at this moment, she would definitely see the seriousness and persistence in his eyes. Mu Linga realized that Uncle Ching had left. She wanted to get up, but Deacon Jin's hands around her waist suddenly tightened, confining her so that she couldn't move. "Answer me," he said coldly. "It's fun. There's no why. Let go of me. Don't you know that men and women shouldn't touch each other? You're bullying women." Mu Linga raised her head and glared at Deacon Jin. She secretly thought that she had to help Ning Jing keep her secret no matter what. Unfortunately, she had underestimated Deacon Jin's intelligence. The one who's pregnant is Ning Jing, right? Ning Jing is pregnant with Tang Li's child. Deacon Jin asked. Mu Linga was shocked. "You? What do you want?" Unexpectedly, Deacon Jin scolded angrily, "What do you think your reputation is? You're going to ruin it like this? What did your parents teach you? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to get married in the future?" Mu Linga was stunned for a moment, but she immediately replied seriously, "Anyway, I'm only going to marry Chi brother. I'm not afraid." "You?" Deacon Jin was exasperated. "Let go of me. Hurry up." Mu Linga said angrily. Deacon Jin suddenly stopped talking and simply let go of Mu Linga. Mu Linga, on the other hand, stopped moving and looked at him in a daze. Deacon Jin directly pushed Mu Linga off his body and stood up to leave. Mu Linga quickly got up and rushed in front of him, stretching out her arms to stop him. Deacon Jin raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Mu Linga felt very uncomfortable under his gaze. She said seriously, "What do you want? Get to the point." Now, she could only negotiate with Deacon Jin. Otherwise, Deacon Jin might tell Uncle Ching about this matter, or he might tell the guards outside. No matter who Deacon Jin wanted to tell, this secret would definitely be his greatest bargaining chip. He could even use this secret to negotiate with Jun Xia. The more Mu Linga thought about it, the more flustered and anxious she became. She realized that once Jun Xia found out about this secret,  found out about this secret, Jun Xia would definitely suspect Ningqing. Then everything that Ningqing had painstakingly planned would be over. They would all be done for. Deacon Jean just sized her up without saying a word. Whatever conditions you want, just state them. If I can do it, I will definitely do it for you, as long as you help me keep this secret. Mu Ling'er said seriously. I can state any conditions. Deacon Jean sneered. What conditions do you want to state? Mu Ling'er was a little diffident. Who knew that Deacon Jean would say, sleep with me for a night, how about that? Slap. An incomparably crisp sound broke the silence of the flower bed. Mu Ling'er's slap was so fast that even Deacon Jean couldn't pull it back. Don't even think about it. Disgusting. Mu Ling'er cursed. Today, she had seen through Deacon Jean completely. Deacon Jin's face was in extreme pain. The corners of his mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. He walked around Mu Ling'er and continued walking forward. After a long time, seeing that Mu Ling'er didn't chase after him, he actually covered his slightly swollen face and laughed soundlessly. But who knew that Mu Ling'er would quickly catch up and say to him very decisively, Deacon Jean, I promise you. Swear that you won't tell anyone about this, or else you'll never be able to return to Winter Crow Country. You'll have to be a slave in your next life. As soon as she said this, Deacon Jin's face darkened. He suddenly turned around and walked towards Mu Ling'er step by step. Mu Ling'er was frightened by his sinister expression. She retreated step by step until her back was against the wall. There was no way out. However, Manager Jean continued to press closer, his seductive lips hovering by her lips, neither close nor far. Mu Ling'er steeled her heart. She turned her head away and closed her eyes. If you want to sleep, then go to your room. Deacon Jin's gaze turned cold. He suddenly raised his hand to slap her, but he didn't hit her in the end. Instead, he hit empty air. He said, Deacon Jean finally turned to look at her and said coldly, I know how to write the word trust. You should scram as soon as possible. Mu Ling'er did not know how she escaped back to the courtyard. She did not dare to enter the room for fear that she would disturb Ningjing and Ningjing would discover that something was wrong. She sat alone in the corner of the room, thinking about how things had turned out this way. As she thought about it, she could not help but cry. She missed Chi brother. She missed her sister. She missed them so much. After Mu Ling'er left, Deacon Jean sat on the bed in a daze until dawn. He only woke up when he heard Tiger Roar's voice from outside. The tiger in Tiger's den roared 3 times a day in the morning, afternoon, and night, as if warning them not to have any thoughts of escaping. Deacon Jean washed his face with cold water, went out, and leaped onto the roof. He listened carefully to the Tiger Roar's voice. Every time the Tiger Roar roared, he would listen carefully. He did not know why, but he found the Tiger Roar's voice somewhat familiar. He remembered that he had never seen a tiger before, let alone heard the Tiger Roar's voice. It was the first time he had seen the king of the jungle, the tiger. He did not feel the threat in Tiger Roar's voice. Instead, he felt a sense of intimacy and relaxation. As he listened, his terrible mood from last night seemed to have gradually calmed down by quite a bit. In the following days, Deacon Jean did not see Mu Ling'er. Mu Ling'er also did not wander around the garden. The events of that night seemed to have never been discovered. However, the two of them remembered the promise they had made that night. Gu was currently on his way to Medicine City. He had long been forgotten by Mu Ling'er. Tang Li, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. Ning Jing's letter had told him to control his impulses and obediently wait for winter and spring at the three-way black market. Apart from helping with matters at East Origin Hall and arranging for the Tang sect to create hidden weapons for the East Qin army, he spent almost all of his time preparing for the return of Ning Jing and their child. He hired a group of old maids to prepare all kinds of clothes for Ning Jing and their child. He even prepared a thick booklet. Every day, he would ask Gu Beiyue questions about women giving birth and postpartum confinement. As long as Gu Beiyue gave an answer, he would write it down without missing a word. He even had Gu Beiyue make a long list of medicinal herbs to nourish Ning Jing's body after giving birth. According to the list, he would either send people to Medicine City, Medicine Ghost Valley, or search all over Cloud Realm continent. Or he would personally post a reward in the black market. That night, Tang Li had just finished a day's work. Seeing Gu Beiyue still sitting in the courtyard, he ran over. "Dr. Gu, introduce a few midwives and medical girls to me. I'll arrange for them to go to the Tang sect first," Tang Li said seriously. Gu Beiyue would never laugh at Tang Li for preparing too early, nor would he mention how annoying Tang Li was. He knew that if Tang Li wasn't so busy, he might have run off to Northern Li long ago. Gu Beiyue knew how to treat illnesses, and he knew how to heal the heart. He was the only one he couldn't heal. Long Fei Yi only told him that the secret recipe for the dragon pill had been found and would be refined very soon. He didn't tell him about the old man of alchemy extorting Han Yunxi. Ever since he knew there was hope for the recovery of his shadow arts, he would sit by himself every night, quietly waiting in anticipation. "All right, I'll have Vice Academy head Shen arrange a few later," Gu Beiyue agreed readily. Tang Li was overjoyed. Thank you. "You're welcome," Gu Beiyue said lightly. Tang Li sat down beside him and smiled. "Dr. Gu, you know so much. Whoever wants to be your wife in the future will be lucky." Gu Beiyue was stunned, then he smiled. He just smiled and didn't say anything. "Dr. Gu, you're not young anymore. When do you plan to get married? Do you have a girl you like?" Tang Li asked again. Gu Beiyue was still smiling and didn't say anything. Tang Li became serious. "Dr. Gu, you're the only descendant of the Shadow Clan. You have to hurry up and spread the Shadow Clan's bloodline." Finally, Gu Beiyue stopped smiling. However, he still didn't say anything and just nodded. Tang Li didn't notice his glance. He remembered something and quickly said, "Dr. Gu, if Ning Jing gives birth to a girl, let's name her Tang Jing. If she gives birth to a boy, let's name him Tang Ning. What do you think?" Was everyone so excited about becoming a father? Did they have endless topics to talk about? Gu Beiyue smiled faintly. "Tang Ning is fine, but Tang Jing and Ning Jing have the same name. It's not appropriate." Tang Li only just realized this problem. He frowned and muttered to himself, "Then I'll have to think of something else. If it's a boy, let's name him Tang Ning. If it's a girl, let's let Ning Jing name her," Gu Beiyue couldn't help but say. "Leave some things for Ning Jing to worry about." Tang Li smiled a little embarrassedly. He rubbed his nose and stood up. "Dr. Gu, it's getting late. You should get some rest." Gu Beiyue watched Tang Li leave and sat down again. He looked up at the crescent moon in the sky. There was a rare look of melancholy between his handsome brows. He was melancholy because of what Tang Li had just said. He was the only descendant of the Shadow Clan. The bloodline of the Shadow Clan could not be broken. On this mainland, there was another person who was even more melancholy than Gu Beiyue about the issue of having an heir. This person was none other than the ruler of Tianan, Long Tianmo. Chapter 10-11. The imperial noble concubine was bitten by a venomous snake. How could there be a venomous snake in the palace? And where did it come from in the middle of winter? As soon as Long Tianma heard the news, he was certain that Mu Luiyue was the culprit. If Shen finds out the culprit, Shen won't let them off, no matter who it is, he said viciously before hurrying to the Duanmu Jin's Wanlan palace. General Mu and Mu Qingwu couldn't enter the imperial harem as they pleased. General Mu was very calm as he told Mu Qingwu, "Let's go back." Mu Qingwu obediently followed him, but he hadn't gone far from the imperial study before he couldn't help but speak up. "Father, Liu Yue's actions are very inappropriate." General Mu didn't speak, but walked forward in silence. If this was the past, he would definitely pretend to be rude and berate Mu Qingwu loudly. But he didn't need to pretend anymore. If a military general had a steady heart and a talent for strategizing, he'd be feared by the sovereign king. But Long Tianma had long been eaten up by General Mu's estate. Naturally, he had to take off the mask he'd worn for so many years. Perhaps if Tianning didn't have internal strife and Cloud Realm Continent continued to be peaceful, he could pretend for the rest of his life. But Tianning had fallen to its current state, and his precious daughter had married Long Tianma. She'd suffered so many grievances that he couldn't bear it any longer. Mu Qingwu had long sensed his father's change. He didn't know when it started, but whenever he looked at his father's back, he always felt a sense of unfamiliarity. Mu Qingwu chased after him and said, "Father, Liu Yue's actions will harm others and herself. If she forces His Majesty into a corner, she won't be able to get away with it." General Mu stopped in his tracks and gave Mu Qingwu a deep look. But he didn't say a word as he kept walking. Mu Qingwu followed closely behind. After some hesitation, he simply said, "Father, you'll only harm Liu Yue like this." General Mu abruptly turned around and said angrily, "Are you doubting your father or questioning your father?" Mu Qingwu quickly lowered his head. "This child doesn't dare. This child just doesn't want Liu Yue to keep making mistakes. Do you know what's right? What's wrong?" General Mu angrily. Although Mu Qingwu's head was lowered, his heart was filled with dissatisfaction and defiance. Ever since he was old enough to understand things, he had always respected his father. If his father said one, he wouldn't dare say two. However, when it came to Liu Yue, the differences between him and his father were growing. From his point of view, his father didn't need to offend the emperor for Liu Yue. A forcibly picked melon wasn't sweet. As long as Liu Yue didn't cause trouble, the position of empress would always be hers. No one would be able to shake it. But if his father continued to anger the emperor for Liu Yue, causing the undercurrents in the imperial court to become turbulent and restless. With the emperor's temperament, he might not continue to endure it. The emperor had already given Duanmu Jin the title of imperial noble concubine as a warning to his father. "Go back and face the wall. Without father's orders, you're not allowed to take half a step out of the house." General Mu angrily ordered. Who knew that the always obedient Mu Qingwu would suddenly raise his head and ask, "Father, are you trying to usurp the throne? What's the matter with that spy in the Chu family's army?" General Mu hurriedly looked around. After confirming that there was no one around, he finally relaxed. He angrily glared at Mu Qingwu. "Good, my son has grown up and has grown wings. Father will report everything that I do in the future to you, how about it?" "Father, that's not what I meant. Father, I'm the young general of the Mu family and your son. I have the right to know everything," Mu Qingwu said seriously. He had endured this matter for a long time. His father actually had a spy in the Chu family's army. This was no small matter. If he guessed correctly, his father must be hiding a lot of things from him. A complicated look flashed through General Mu's eyes, but he didn't show it. His attitude was still firm as he coldly said, you either go back and face the wall, or leave right now. You don't need to step through my Mu family's doors ever again. After saying this, General Mu left in a huff. He was confident that his son wouldn't dare to disobey his orders. But who knew that Mu Qingwu really didn't return to the Mu estate? General Mu spent the entire night worrying about Mu Luyue. In fact, he had already warned Luyue not to make a move on Duanmujin without permission. The Mu family and Western Zhou's imperial family had a complicated relationship, so it was still too early to make a move. Therefore, the matter of the Duanmujin being bitten by a venomous snake was either done by someone else to frame Luyue, or it was done by the Duanmujin himself to frame Luyue. General Mu was outside the palace, but he was the first to receive news from the palace. He helped Mu Luyue come up with a plan and blocked many suspicions. It wasn't until the afternoon of the third day that Duanmujin's life was finally out of danger. Duanmujin's dowry maid, Huan found several sachets in the backyard of Wenlan Palace. The sachets were filled with unknown spices. Long Tianma invited a poison doctor, but even he couldn't identify the spices. He only suspected that the spices were the cause of the venomous snake's attack. Long Tianma immediately ordered people to investigate the origin of the sachets. Unfortunately, they couldn't find a single clue. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find a way to link it to Mu Luyue. Without evidence, General Mu was confident that Long Tianma wouldn't dare to do anything to Luyue. Only then did he calm down and ask about Mu Qingwu's situation. Only then did he find out that Mu Qingwu hadn't returned for several days. General Mu immediately rushed to Mu Qingwu's courtyard and personally searched inside and out. Only then did he believe that his son really wasn't there. He stood there in a daze, as if he had been struck by a blow. He loved Luyue, but he loved Qingwu even more. There were many things that he didn't say because it wasn't the right time. Qingwu wasn't someone who could keep secrets. If he hadn't arranged everything properly, he definitely wouldn't have told the Mu family's secret. He dares to disobey my orders, he dares. He dares. General Mu was so agitated that he almost couldn't catch his breath. Master, could something have happened to the young general? The steward asked anxiously. General Mu only just realized that it was possible. Qingwu had never disobeyed him since he was a child. This time, Qingwu definitely wouldn't dare to disobey his orders. Something must have happened to him, definitely. Find him. Quickly, find him for me. General Mu was very anxious. While he sent people to search for him, he also sent people to the palace to report to Long Tianma. When Long Tianma heard this news, he was so anxious that he didn't even care about Duanmujin's life. He immediately sent people to search for him. However, after several days, they still didn't receive any news about Mu Qingwu. It was as if Mu Qingwu had disappeared into thin air. Long Tianma was so anxious that he wanted to issue a bounty in the name of Tianan. However, General Mu was afraid of alerting the enemy, so he stopped him and only sent people to secretly search for him. General Mu had aged a few years because of Mu Qingwu's disappearance. He didn't even have time to care about Mu Luyue. Just like that, Mu Qingwu disappeared. Other than Long Tianma, General Mu, and a few Mu family servants, no one knew. Even Mu Luyue was kept in the dark. Whether Mu Qingwu ran away from home or was kidnapped, it was still a mystery. On this day, it snowed in the Tian Shan mountain range, blocking all the paths up the mountain. In the Tian Shan mountain range, there was a strange palace on top of a deep and dangerous cliff. It was where the Evil Sword School was located. Bai Yanqing stood at the top of the tallest building and gazed at the snow-capped peaks of Celestial Mountain. His excellent swordsmanship had all come from the Evil Sword School, so he could naturally find a place to hide in the Evil Sword School. After leaving the abyss of the 100 Poison sect, he was thrilled to find out that Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi had lied to the world. He wanted nothing more than to expose their lies and make them betrayed by the two factions so that the world would cast them aside. But who knew that Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi would beat him to the punch and find out the secret of his immortality? After thinking it over, he finally realized that it was because he'd trapped Lil Thing in his poisoned storage space that his secret had been exposed. For now, he couldn't show his face, so he could only hide in the evil sword school to recover from his injuries. But while he was recovering, he kept an eye on the movements of every power in Cloud Realm continent. He kept an eye on the battle between East Qin and the Ning clan troops, the civil war in Northern Li, and the marriage alliance between Western Zhou and Tian'an. He also sent people to search for the catalyst for perplexing butterfly illusion. Just like before, he was like an old fox hiding in ambush, watching over everyone without batting an eyelid. Looking at the falling snow, Bai Yanqing seemed to think of something, but his lips curved into a faint smile as if he was very happy. The roads to Tianshan are all sealed. If you want to climb the mountain, you'll have to wait until spring next year, a woman's voice suddenly rose from behind him. That's right. It'll be very lively next spring, Bai Yanqing grinned. He didn't look back, but the woman walked step by step to his side. She was dressed in black with a black veil covering her face. It was impossible to see her features, but one could tell that she was young. Have you made arrangements for sending the poison to Tian'an? Bai Yanqing asked. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. The poison's already been ingested and examined by the poison doctors, but they couldn't find anything wrong with it, the black-veiled woman said coldly. Satisfied, Bai Yanqing asked, do you have any news on the whereabouts of Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi? Hatred flashed in the black-veiled woman's eyes at the mention of those two names. There are a few pieces of news, but we don't know if they're true or false. We still need to investigate them thoroughly. Bai Yanqing didn't press her, but chuckled. You must want to know their whereabouts even more than old man He, go on then. The black-veiled woman didn't say much, but turned to leave. Long Fei Yi had arranged for many shadow guards to disguise themselves as him and Han Yunxi, then spread a lot of fake news. That was how they'd been able to hide their tracks until now. By now, he and Han Yunxi had already reached Medicine City. They didn't linger in Medicine City for long, nor did they alarm any of the clans in Medicine City. Instead, they headed straight for Medicine Hut. When they arrived at Medicine Hut, Gu Beiyue and Tang Li had arranged for people to deliver the century-old snow wine. The King of Medicine was pleasantly surprised to see Han Yunxi and the others. When he'd given the Medicine Hut's pharmacopoeia to Han Yunxi, he'd been hoping that Han Yunxi would come back and ask him for guidance. But who would have thought that Han Yunxi wouldn't return? She'd even given the pharmacopoeia to that girl, Mu Ling, and he'd been bombarded with urgent messages from Mu Ling, every day. Girl, it wasn't easy to wait for you to come back. The King of Medicine sighed as he stroked his beard. Han Yunxi didn't have time to exchange pleasantries with him, so she asked directly, that master of the medicine requesting cave didn't go out, right? The King of Medicine immediately smelled the scent of gunpowder. He asked suspiciously, what happened? To the side, Long Fei Yi didn't have the patience to wait for the King of Medicine's answer. He ordered coldly, men, seal the front and back doors. Pile up firewood and set fire. Chapter 10-12. As soon as Long Fei Yi said to set the place on fire, the King of Medicine realized that Han Yunxi and the others had come with ill intentions. Although the alchemy furnace was part of the medicine hut, the King of Medicine and the old man of alchemy had always minded their own business. As long as Han Yunxi and the others didn't come for him, the King of Medicine was happy to watch a good show. Back then, he had also suffered in the alchemy furnace. As soon as Long Fei Yi gave the order, the shadow guards immediately took action. They had come prepared this time. It wasn't easy to enter the medicine-requesting cave and see the medicine hut old man. Even though they had already passed 3 checkpoints in the medicine-requesting cave last time, they would still encounter 3 more checkpoints this time. The obstacles would definitely be different from before. Therefore, there were only 2 ways to meet the medicine hut old man in the quickest and easiest way. One was to reveal their identity and let the medicine hut old man let them pass. The other was to force the medicine hut old man out. The first way was for them to go in and see the old man of alchemy. The second way was for the old man of alchemy to come out and see them. This time, they weren't here to ask for medicine. They were here to collect a debt. Naturally, the old man of alchemy would come out, not them. No matter how many checkpoints there were in the medicine-requesting cave, as long as they set fire to the front and back of the cave, the people inside would have no choice but to escape. The shadow guards quickly piled up firewood at the entrance of the medicine-requesting cave. Long Fei Yi personally lit the fire. Not long after, the fire was burning. The flames soared into the sky and black smoke billowed. Su Donglin personally checked the fire and adjusted the firewood according to the wind. After the fire burned for a while, the billowing black smoke rushed into the medicine-requesting cave. Go and guard the back of the cave. Long Fei Yi ordered. After Su Donglin left, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi personally guarded this place. The king of medicine watched from the side. He stroked his beard and smiled treacherously. He didn't know how the old man of alchemy had offended Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi. He was only glad that he didn't force them. Otherwise, with Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi's current ability, he wouldn't have a good time. He was Han Yunxi's master in name. Now, it seemed that he had profited. Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi stood side by side beside the bonfire. Han Yunxi had her arms crossed while Long Fei Yi had his hands behind his back. Although Han Yunxi wasn't tall, her spine was always straight. The aura she exuded from her slender back was enough to intimidate even men. Long Fei Yi didn't need to say much. He just stood there casually, but his domineering aura was enough to look down on all heroes and look down on the world. They looked at the billowing smoke with expressionless faces. They didn't smile. Goose sat on a tree nearby and also stared at the billows of smoke. However, his gaze was a little sluggish, as if he was in a daze. The firewood burned more vigorously and faster. Thick smoke flowed into the cave continuously. The shadow guards kept adding firewood. Time passed unknowingly. The shadow guards at the back of the cave came to report twice that everything was going smoothly. Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi had been to the medicine-requesting cave before. They knew how dangerous it was, so they weren't in a hurry. But who would have thought that after 2 whole hours of smoke, not a single person had escaped from the medicine-requesting cave? What was going on? Is there something fishy in the cave? Han Yunxi whispered. As soon as she finished speaking, something strange happened. The black smoke that was slowly flowing in suddenly surged in, as if some kind of energy was being sucked in by the cave. It's very fishy. Long Fei Yi was surprised, but he wasn't in a hurry. Gu was a little restless. He couldn't sit comfortably even after changing several sitting positions. He decided to just squat on a tree branch. His long and narrow eyes blinked, and no one knew what he was thinking. After a while, Su Donglin personally rushed over. When he saw the situation at the cave entrance, he immediately reported, "Your Highness, it's the same at the back of the cave." "What should we do?" "Understood." Long Fei Yi was very calm. The smoke attack was just a way for them to probe. Han Yunxi took out a bottle of poison and handed it to Su Donglin. Add it to the fire and burn it. The poison would enter the medicine-requesting cave with the smoke and then spread in the air. Although there were many stone doors in the medicine-requesting cave, smoke was different from other things. It could pass through any small gap and fill the entire medicine-requesting cave. Unless the medicine-requesting cave had a poison storage space that could absorb the poison in the air, no matter what was fishy about the medicine-requesting cave, everyone in the cave would be poisoned. Han Yunxi's poison would definitely cause everyone inside to run out to seek the antidote. Su Donglin took the poison and was about to leave, and the silent goose suddenly jumped down from the tree. Wait! Su Donglin naturally stopped. Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi exchanged glances. Just as they were about to speak, Long Fei Yi beat them to it. He said, "I already said that this has nothing to do with you. No matter who it is, anyone who goes back on their word will have to pay the price." Gu's face was tense as he looked at Han Yunxi. Han Yunxi's expression was even more serious than his. "Whether this succeeds or fails, it has nothing to do with you." Han Yunxi's words were even more blunt than Long Fei Yi's. If they destroyed the medicine-requesting cave, that was their problem. It had nothing to do with Gu. If they couldn't do anything to the old man of alchemy, they wouldn't ask Gu for help. Gu's face was still tense and he didn't say anything. No one could figure out what he was thinking. What was he trying to do? "Su Donglin, why aren't you leaving?" Long Fei Yi's voice was cold. Gu extended his long arm to block Su Donglin. That stern expression of his changed instantly into a bright smile. "How is this not my problem?" This guy was going to interfere. Was he going to help or stop him? If he wanted to help, how was he going to help? Why should the old man of alchemy give him face? If he wanted to stop him, how could he face Gu Beiyue? Regarding this matter, his wisest choice was to stay aside. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi still couldn't figure it out, but Gu said loudly, "Gu Beiyue's problem is my problem. This time, I want the dragon pill for sure. Don't poison that alchemy furnace. Come, I'll bring you in." So, Gu wanted to help them. If this guy was really the little madman that the old man of alchemy was looking for, then there must be a reason why he didn't look for Master for so many years. Every time someone mentioned him, he would avoid him. If he helped them now, would he be admitting his identity? "We can handle it. As long as you hand over the dragon pill, I'll definitely cure the poison," Han Yunxi said softly. She didn't want Gu to force her. However, Gu laughed even more impudently and arrogantly. He said, "Poison girl, if you're tricked, then I, Gu, am the one who's being tricked. Anyway, I'm going to take care of this matter. If you're not going in, I'll go in myself." Gu didn't give Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi a chance to object. He ran into the cave like a wisp of smoke, his figure disappearing into the darkness. "Everyone, stay on guard." Long Fei Yi instructed Su Donglin, then pulled Han Yunxi and chased after him. They quickly caught up to Gu. Gu turned back to look at them and said with a smile, "Follow me closely. Don't get lost." Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi both noticed that there was no sign of smoke or fire in the medicine-requesting cave. They didn't ask Gu Qishao anything, but followed him silently. Since Gu wanted to enter, they didn't have the right or need to stop him. From what they remembered, the first time they came in, they met a medicine boy who wanted them to appraise the medicine. They would only be let in if they succeeded. Indeed, not long after, a medicine boy came out of the darkness in front of them with a tray in his hand. The fire and smoke incident didn't seem to affect anyone in the medicine-requesting cave. The medicine boy didn't mention the smoke incident to them. Just like the last time, he was expressionless and his tone was stiff. Even his words were the same. As long as you can identify the medicine in here within the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, you may continue to move forward. Otherwise, you will have to stay in the medicine hut for the rest of your lives. Violators will be cursed and be plagued with all kinds of illnesses with no cure. Han Yunxi's detox system didn't identify the medicine immediately. This was because the medicine boy didn't bring out medicine this time, but medicinal pills. Han Yunxi really wasn't familiar with medicinal pills. The medicine boy didn't care if they were ready or not. He stood 5 steps away from them and picked up a medicinal pills, showing them to them in the palm of his hand. Han Yunxi could barely identify the ingredients of some medicinal pills. It was really difficult for her to name them. Long Feiyi didn't have much to say. This wasn't his strong suit. Long Feiyi crossed his arms and looked like a bystander. Since Gu wanted to enter, the task naturally had to be handed over to Gu. Han Yunxi looked at Gu with a learning attitude, waiting for Gu to show his skills. Who knew that Gu would suddenly rush over, snatch all the medicinal pills from the medicine boy, and throw them to Han Yunxi. Poison girl, these are for you. Han Yunxi caught the medicinal pills. Before she could react, Long Feiyi had taken them all away. The medicine boy was frightened. He pointed at Gu and shouted, You will be cursed. You will be plagued with all kinds of diseases, and there will be no medicine to cure you. Gu's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. He picked up the medicine boy and replied in a very arrogant tone, Cursed. I'm scared to death. After he finished speaking, he casually threw the medicine boy to the side and kicked open the stone door in front of them. Han Yunxi realized for the first time that Gu had such a domineering side to him. Han Yunxi remembered that in the second stage last time, everyone had fallen sick and were beyond cure. In the end, it was Gu Beiyue who cured everyone. What would they encounter in the second stage this time? Would they also fall sick? Needless to say, Han Yunxi was a little worried. Curing diseases was not Gu's strong point. They walked forward in the cave and didn't find anything strange. At this time, the old man of alchemy was sitting on the alchemy furnace, listening to a servant report the situation of the first stage. What's the name of the guy who snatched the medicinal pills? The old man of alchemy asked. His name is Gu. He is the illegitimate son of the former president of the medical city, Guyuntian. He is the owner of the medicine Ghost Valley. The servant only knew so much. The old man of alchemy's face was gloomy. No matter who he is, he dares to snatch the medicinal pills from the old man, kill him without mercy. Han Yunxi and the others passed the second stage last time. This time, it would not be so easy. Moreover, the medical expert, Gu Beiyue, didn't come with them. He wanted to see how long Gu could be arrogant. The old man of alchemy thought so. However, what Gu did in the second stage made him fall directly from the high alchemy furnace. Chapter 10:13. Gu walked in front, while Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi followed behind. Han Yunxi remembered that when they had reached the second stage, they had also walked forward like this. Later on, everyone had suddenly fallen ill, and the illness had immediately entered their bodies. What would be waiting for them this time? Abruptly, Gu Qishao stopped. He looked back with a smile, and suddenly darted towards the darkness on the right. Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi were about to chase after him, but Gu actually pulled out a female doctor from the darkness. Let go of me. Who are you? How did you find me? Let go. Who are you? Who are you? As the female doctor questioned and struggled, Gu Qishao muffled her mouth with one hand and grabbed her by the collar with the other. His gaze was sinister and vicious. Take out the medicine, or else this old man will rip your clothes off right now. Han Yunxi looked surprised, but Long Feiyi had already turned his head away to avoid it. Based on his understanding of Gu, this guy was definitely someone who would tear a woman's clothes off. The female doctor struggled desperately. Sure enough, Gu did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. With a big tug, he directly tore off all the female doctor's clothes, leaving only her dudu. The female doctor was instantly stunned. She did not dare to move, and her entire body trembled. Where's the medicine? Gu was no longer fierce. He let go of the female doctor's mouth, and asked with extreme patience with a smile. It's. The female doctor's lips and teeth were trembling. It's in the secret room's stone door, inside the stone door's inner wall. Long Feiyi immediately walked towards the darkness on the right. He found the secret room's door hidden in the wall, and found a few bottles of medicine in the mezzanine. Only then did Gu throw the female doctor aside, and said with a smile, "Take the medicine and don't worry. Walk forward." The female doctor was thrown aside into the darkness and shouted, "You're too much. You violated the medicine requesting cave's rules. You won't get the medicine. They were not here to ask for medicine in the first place." Naturally, he didn't have to be as well behaved as before. Long Feiyi didn't know much about this cave. Otherwise, he would have let Su Donglin and his men kill their way in. Long Feiyi and Han Yunxi both took the medicine and continued to walk forward with Gu. If they were only 90% sure before, they were now 100% sure that Gu was the disciple that the old man of alchemy was looking for, the little madman. Otherwise, how could Gu be so clear about the secret of the medicine-requesting cave? After Gu was expelled from Alchemy City, he came to the alchemy furnace and worshipped the old man of alchemy as his master. What happened between the master and disciple that made Gu leave without saying goodbye? Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi were both curious, but they tacitly agreed not to ask. Han Yunxi and the other two continued to walk forward. When the old man of alchemy learned that Gu had found the female doctor in the secret room and taken away the medicine, he directly fell from the top of the alchemy furnace. Fortunately, he reacted quickly enough to flip over and land on his feet first. Otherwise, his old bones would have been crippled. How did he know? How did he know? The old man of alchemy asked in disbelief. The servants were also very curious. Gu had nothing to do with the alchemy furnace, so how did he know about the secret of the second trial? Suddenly, a servant stood out. "Master, is it that young master has returned?" The old man of alchemy was in the afternoon. His young disciple had always been respected by everyone as the young lord. Everyone thought that the young lord had inherited his master's mantle. No one thought that the young lord would suddenly disappear. No one knew what happened between the master and disciple back then. The old man of alchemy was stunned, then he shook his head. No, he doesn't know about these things. In the past 10 years, the old man of alchemy had broken the 3 trials of the medicine-requesting cave countless times. Little madman had been here for so many years, so how could he know the secret of the 3 trials? The old man of alchemy seemed to be crazy, but he remembered some things very clearly. He couldn't forget or be wrong. Moreover, the old man of alchemy knew his disciple too well. He knew that no matter what the reason was, the little madman would never enter the medicine-requesting cave again. It's not him, it can't be him. The old man of alchemy muttered to himself. Master, then what's going on? The servant asked, puzzled. Tell the person in the 3rd trial to hide well. If she reveals herself again, the old man will throw her into the furnace and burn her. The old man of alchemy said viciously. Who knew that before the servant could give the order, a few servants suddenly flew out of the cave and crashed into the alchemy furnace. One by one, they spat out blood and fell to the ground. Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi were still under Gu's protection. They successfully passed the third trial and killed their way here. Protect the master. The servants immediately rushed over with their swords. The old man of alchemy waved his hand and dismissed them. Aya, it's so lively here today. Han Yunxi smiled innocently. She saw that there was no fire in the huge alchemy furnace. There was only smoke. Presumably, the thick smoke that came in earlier was all sucked in by this strange furnace. The old man of alchemy glanced at Han Yunxi and arrogantly asked, "Who is Gu? Come out and let the old man take a look." Only then did Gu Qishao saunter out from behind Long Fei, his eyes narrowed into slits as he grinned. His enchanting beauty and pure and harmless smile were perfectly combined on his face. His smile was devastatingly beautiful and charming. Seeing his smile, the old man of alchemy was immediately stunned. After a while, he muttered, You are Gu." When little madman left, he was still very young. He didn't know what little madman would look like when he grew up. However, when he saw Gu's long and narrow eyes, he was inexplicably sure that little madman's eyes must look like this. It must be. That's right. Gu stood at the high entrance of the cave and looked disdainfully at the tiny old man of alchemy under the alchemy furnace. As usual, his smile was even more harmless than Han Yunxi's. "Old man, are you free? We've specially come to find you to refine the dragon pill. We've even brought you the snow wine." When Gu spoke and smiled, the old man of alchemy came back to his senses. He shook his head. Although this guy's eyes were very similar to Little Madman's, his temper was completely different. Little Madman's temper was even more unpredictable than his. Moreover, Little Madman didn't like to smile or talk. A trace of self-mockery flashed across the old man of alchemy's eyes. What was wrong with him? It was impossible for Little Madman to come in, so why was he deceiving himself? "Kid, how did you know the secret of the second and third level?" the old man of alchemy asked. Every level in the medicine requesting cave had a guardian. Actually, if one could deal with the guardian before challenging the level, they would be able to pass the level. Gu smiled and said, "Old man, that little trick is outdated. It's time to change it." The old man of alchemy definitely didn't know that Gu had secretly flipped through his secret manual when he was young. Not only did the secret manual record the refining of medicinal pills, it also recorded the design of various mechanisms in the medicine requesting cave. Although the obstacles in each level were different, the place where the receiver was hiding would not change. The old man of alchemy didn't take long. After all, the design of the guardian's hiding place wasn't perfect. He looked at Gu and then looked at Han Yunxi. He sneered and said, "You need to act like you're asking for medicine. Stupid girl, are you prepared to stay?" Han Yunxi suddenly threw a few letters over. The old man of alchemy didn't expect this and was hit squarely in the face. Han Yunxi said angrily, "It's written in black and white that you wanted me to provide you with all the curative effects of the dragon pill. You even took 4 poison pills from me. If you forgot, I'll give you time to read through it again." Han Yunxi and Long Feiyi didn't directly cause trouble, which was already very kind. Who knew that the old man of alchemy would pick up the letters and casually throw them into the alchemy furnace? This tall alchemy furnace didn't have a fire, but it continuously emitted heat waves. When the letters were thrown in, they immediately turned into ashes and disappeared. The old man of alchemy was very satisfied with this result. He slowly stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Words are no guarantee. If you want the dragon pill back, you stay. There's nothing else to discuss." As soon as the old man of alchemy finished speaking, Long Feiyi was about to draw his sword. This alchemy furnace wasn't ordinary, but he didn't believe that he couldn't destroy this furnace with the power of the Lustbite seal that he now controlled. However, Han Yunxi stopped Long Fei Yi. She was even angrier than Long Fei Yi, but she still endured it and whispered, "Gu is here. Leave it to him." Since Gu was here, he must have a way to deal with the old man of alchemy. Sure enough, Gu soared into the air and flew towards the alchemy furnace. Seeing this, the old man of alchemy immediately flew up and stopped Gu from approaching the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace was his treasure, he definitely wouldn't allow anyone to touch it. "I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to refine the dragon pill?" Gu said with a smile. "That girl stays." 3 days later, the dragon pill will be sent to the three-way black market. The old man of alchemy refused to budge an inch. Gu didn't get angry with him and asked with a smile, "Old man, do you know that it's annoying to not keep one's word?" The old man of alchemy didn't answer and kicked Gu away. However, while Gu dodged, he threw a stone that was hidden in his hand towards the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace immediately made a clanked sound. The old man of alchemy hurriedly looked back. Gu took advantage of this opening and flew past the old man of alchemy. He flew to the top of the alchemy furnace and stood there. The old man of alchemy opened his eyes wide and anxiously said, You come down. Come down immediately or I won't forgive you." Seeing that he was about to chase after him, Gu summoned Immerse's sword spirit and lightly slashed the alchemy furnace, leaving a thin sword mark. The old man of alchemy was instantly stunned. His expression and facial features looked as if they would collapse and shatter at any time. Gu smiled even more innocently, "Old man, if you take another step forward, do you believe that I will turn your precious furnace into a big flowery face?" The old man of alchemy was so scared that his legs almost went soft. He trembled as he asked, You, what do you want?" Old man, you still don't know what I want. It seems that I haven't made it clear enough." Gu looked innocent, but the sword in his hand was merciless and slashed another long mark. "No!" The old man of alchemy roared like a madman, "I'll refine it. I'll refine the dragon pill immediately. I'll refine it immediately." Unfortunately, Gu wasn't satisfied, he said. Chapter 10:14. The old man of alchemy had already compromised and agreed to refine the dragon pill, but Gu was still not satisfied. The corner of his mouth curled into an evil and cold sneer as he stood on top of the towering cauldron with the moist sword spirit in his hand. He was like an arrogant god that looked down on the heavens and all living things. This kind of man was not like Long Fei Yi, who made people feel awe. Instead, he made people feel fear and shudder. Han Yunxi looked up at Gu. At this moment, she suddenly understood that Shaoqi no longer existed in this world. In Gu's heart, Shaoqi no longer existed. Shaoqi had already grown up. "Old man, let me have a look at the pill recipe first." Gu was not negotiating, but ordering. Old man of alchemy's eyes flashed with a touch of displeasure. He asked loudly, "What do you want the pill recipe for? You can't understand it." "Who told you that I can't understand it?" Gu retorted. "Old man only promised to refine the pill for you. He didn't promise to give you the pill recipe." Old man of alchemy was furious. He turned around and looked at Han Yunxi. Selling the pill but not the pill recipe. This has always been the rule. Han Yunxi was about to answer, but Long Fei Yi, who had always been a man of few words, spoke first. He did not speak to old man of alchemy, but to Gu. "What are you waiting for?" Before the old man of alchemy could understand, Han Yunxi smiled. With Long Fei Yi and Gu around, no matter how big the matter was, it seemed that it had nothing to do with her. She could ask for a chair from the old man of alchemy to sit and watch. Hiss! The old man of alchemy suddenly turned around and saw Gu holding Immerse's sword soul, slowly drawing circles on the alchemy furnace. Gu! The old man of alchemy was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He suddenly rushed forward. As he got closer, Gu's movements became faster and faster. The old man of alchemy had no choice but to stop. Unwillingly, he took out a prescription from his sleeve and tossed it to Gu Qishao. After Gu caught it, he immediately looked at it seriously. After looking at it for a long time, he threw the pill formula to Han Yunxi. Poison girl, take a look. Gu's medical skills could be considered the best in Cloud Realm. If he couldn't see any problems, Han Yunxi wouldn't be able to either. Unless this prescription involved poison. Han Yunxi was on guard. As soon as she saw the prescription, she immediately asked, "What's the dosage of the snow wine?" The prescription mentioned 19 medicinal ingredients. The first 18 ingredients all had a clear dosage, but the 19th ingredient, snow wine, didn't have a clear dosage. It only had the word certain. At these words, the old man of alchemy despaired. He replied impatiently, "I'll replace the clear water with the snow wine. Use it as needed. There's no dosage to speak of." Alright, there are no other questions. Start making the medicine. Han Yunxi didn't ask any more questions and threw the prescription to the old man of alchemy. The old man of alchemy immediately ordered people to prepare 18 ingredients and divide them into portions. Han Yunxi flew to the old man of alchemy's side and smiled. "Everyone else, withdraw. I'll personally assist you." With Gu's threat, the old man of alchemy had no room to refuse. He could only have the medical apprentices withdraw. The 18 ingredients had to be soaked in snow wine and then boiled. Once boiled to a certain degree, the dregs and juices would be separated and stored for later use. Han Yunxi had personally come to help out, for no other reason than the fact that snow wine and 2 of the 18 medicinal ingredients would produce a poison called drunken addiction when boiled together in certain amounts. Although drunken addiction wasn't fatal, it made people addicted to alcohol. However, drunken addiction was very special. It couldn't be completely detoxified and could only be alleviated by taking the antidote for a certain period of time. To make the antidote, one needed the dregs of the raw ingredients used to make drunken addiction. Moreover, the antidote would take at least 3 years. In other words, if Gu didn't pay attention and found this suspicious point, and let Han Yunxi find this flaw. Once Gu Beiyue took the dragon pill in the future, he could only be controlled by the old man of alchemy. The old man of alchemy restrained Gu Beiyue in order to keep Han Yunxi. Han Yunxi didn't expose the old man of alchemy. After all, the old man of alchemy didn't indicate the dosage, and she had no evidence to accuse the old man of alchemy of his despicable means. The old man of alchemy only needed to pretend to be stupid to shirk responsibility. However, she didn't expose him and personally assisted the old man of alchemy. The old man of alchemy knew what was going on, so he naturally didn't dare to play any tricks. Sure enough, under Han Yunxi's attention, the old man of alchemy was like a withered grass in summer, weak and uninterested. How dare he use poison in front of Han Yunxi? How stupid! Gu didn't have such good patience. He urged loudly, "Hurry up." The old man of alchemy looked up at him, "I can't hurry up. Slow work produces fine work. If I hurry up, what if something?" Before he finished speaking, Gu interrupted, Okay. I'll wait. Gu sat cross-legged on the alchemy furnace and knocked on the alchemy furnace with Immerse's sword spirit. He wasn't threatening. He was just bored, so he knocked on the furnace when he had nothing to do. The old man of alchemy looked at the sky with a hopeless expression. His movements finally became nimble, so fast that Han Yunxi couldn't see clearly. She could only start the detoxification system to check the dosage of the snow wine. After all, from finding the pill formula to finding the ingredients, everyone had contributed something. However, what the old man of alchemy had done before made Han Yunxi feel at ease. She wanted the remaining 4 medicinal pills. She thought that this was the price the old man of alchemy had to pay for tricking them. Looking at the closed furnace door, Han Yunxi whispered, "Let's take this opportunity to see how this big furnace refine pills." The last time they saw this big alchemy furnace, Han Yunxi and the others were very curious. This large cauldron was 3 stories high and had a total of 9 floors. Each floor had 6 cauldron doors. Although the cauldron doors were hollow, there was no fire inside. It was pitch black, so one couldn't see what was inside the cauldron. The alchemy furnace's uniqueness was that there was no fire in the furnace, but the whole furnace constantly emitted heat. If it wasn't winter, Gu probably wouldn't have been able to withstand the heat wave. Refining pills was different from making medicine. To make medicine, one only needed to have medicinal materials and prepare them well. Even if some of the medicinal materials were more complicated, it would take at most 2 or 3 days. However, refining pills took a long time. It could take as little as 2 or 3 months, or as long as 2 or 3 years. According to Han Yunxi's understanding, the old man of alchemy's greatest ability was not that he could refine miraculous pills, but that he had the ability to greatly shorten the time of refining pills. Many medicinal pills that took 2 or 3 years to refine could be refined by the old man of alchemy in 2 or 3 months. Therefore, many people who were in urgent need of medicine would ask for medicinal pills at all costs. In the letter that Han Yunxi received from the old man of alchemy, the old man of alchemy mentioned that if they could find the prescription, they would be able to refine the dragon pill in 2 months at the latest. Han Yunxi thought that the slowest was 2 months, which meant that if they were fast, they should be able to get it done in 1.5 months. It was a good choice to stay here and watch the old man of alchemy refine pills while looking for the whereabouts of the fire of 10,000 poisons. At the same time, they could also pay attention to the situation in Northern Li. At least, no one in the world would be able to guess that they would be here. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi were curious about how the alchemy furnace could refine pills without an open fire. This time, the old man of alchemy should reveal the secret of the alchemy furnace. The old man of alchemy glanced at Gu and said nothing. He suddenly grabbed something out of thin air, and a flame burned in his palm. Han Yunxi and the others had seen the old man of alchemy's ability to make fire out of thin air before. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi remained silent. Gu's eyes flashed with a complicated look. He seemed to want to jump down from the furnace, but in the end, he did not move. He had been here for a long time. Of course, he knew what the old man of alchemy wanted to do. Chapter 10-15. The old man of alchemy's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, he threw the flame at Gu. "Old man, you know how to play with fire." Gu pretended to be shocked and shouted before he jumped away. As soon as Gu jumped away, the old man of alchemy immediately flew up. Seeing Gu's shock at the flame, the old man of alchemy was even more sure that this young man was not his apprentice. A touch of bitterness flashed through his eyes. He knelt at the place where Gu stood and checked the scratches on the alchemy furnace with great distress. It made people feel that he was not touching the alchemy furnace, but his most beloved child. Gu looked at him coldly. The playful smile on his face gradually turned cold. However, he did not move his eyes away. He was still looking at him. After touching all the scratches one by one, the old man of alchemy raised his head. He looked at Han Yunxi, Long Feiyi, and Gu one by one. He said word by word, "After this, the three of you, don't come and beg the old man in the future." The implication was that in the future, if Han Yunxi and the others needed to refine pills, he would absolutely ignore them. "Old man, refine the pills this time first. Otherwise, I guarantee that you and this broken alchemy furnace will not be alive until the next time." Gu Qishao threatened with a chuckle. The old man of alchemy did not want to say anything to Gu except to stare at him angrily. No, to be exact, the old man of alchemy did not even want to see Gu. He did not want to. He stood on the top of the alchemy furnace and raised his hands. The top of the alchemy furnace slowly rose into the air. He took a horse stance. He formed a knot with both hands and gritted his teeth as he circulated his energy. Gradually, a ball of raging fire appeared under his hands. As he exerted more power, the ball of fire under his hands burned even more fiercely. Gradually, Long Feiyi and Han Yunxi could feel the heat of the fire under Old Man Alchemy's hand. "That's strange," Long Feiyi muttered. Han Yunxi also found it strange. "What kind of martial arts is this?" Long Feiyi did not care whether the Old Man of Alchemy was a martial art or a strange technique. What he was curious about was, this old man's internal strength is ordinary. How can he turn internal strength into fire? Depending on the martial arts one practiced, the way in which one's inner strength was displayed was also different. For example, Long Feiyi's swordsmanship, the way in which his inner strength was displayed was through sword qi. If it was boxing, then the way in which his inner strength was displayed was through fist wind. However, no matter what form the inner strength was displayed in, the premise was that the inner strength was vigorous. However, the Old Man of Alchemy was not a martial artist. His inner strength was very ordinary. How did he turn internal strength into fire? Moreover, the flame under his hand was not weak. At this moment, it was still increasing. Long Feiyi pondered that the Old Man of Alchemy's secret must be in the alchemy furnace. He looked at Gu and saw that Gu was enjoying the flame under the Old Man of Alchemy's hand with great interest. There was nothing unusual about him. If he did not know the truth, Long Feiyi felt that he could not see that Gu was the Old Man of Alchemy's disciple. How much did Gu know about the secret of the alchemy furnace? As the Old Man of Alchemy continued to exert his strength, the flame continued to increase. Just as everyone was absorbed in watching, the Old Man of Alchemy suddenly jumped into the air. In an instant, the flame under his hand swelled into a huge fireball. The fireball seemed to be filled with air as it continued to expand. It gave people a feeling that it would explode at any time. How destructive would the explosion of this fireball be? Long Feiyi became alert and pulled Han Yunxi's hand. However, Gu leaned against the wall casually and looked up as if he was enjoying the fireworks. He even smiled slightly. Although from Gu's performance, the big fireball would not be dangerous, Long Feiyi was still cautious and did not let go of Han Yunxi's hand. Sure enough, the big fireball did not explode. Instead, under the guidance of the Old Man of Alchemy, it slowly turned into a fire dragon and flowed backward into the alchemy furnace from top to bottom. When all the flame flowed into the alchemy furnace, the lid of the furnace that was suspended in the air suddenly fell down, making a loud noise that hurt people's ears. Han Yunxi kept staring into the furnace. Looking through the hollow furnace door and furnace window, she did not see a trace of fire. In other words, after the huge fireball flowed into the alchemy furnace, the fire was all gone. Extinguished. Long Feiyi, where is the fire? Han Yunxi asked. Long Feiyi stared at the second and third layers of the alchemy furnace. The medicinal juice and dregs were placed in these two layers. He clearly felt that the flow of fire turned into a force and flowed to the second and third layers. There seemed to be a force that was gradually activated in the second and third layers and gradually became stronger. The fire should be there. As soon as Long Fei finished speaking, the second and third layers of the alchemy furnace suddenly lit up. Through the cracks of the carvings, they could faintly see the raging fire in the furnace. However, this scene only lasted for a moment. Before Han Yunxi and Long Fei could see the fire clearly, the fire on the second and third layers was extinguished. The old man of alchemy jumped down from the top of the alchemy furnace and said cold words. "If you want to wait here or outside, it's up to you. The furnace can only be opened after 5 years. It said that there are 5 dragon pill, but the old man can't guarantee how many pills can be refined in the end. The old man can only guarantee that at least 1 pill can be refined for you to bring back to save people." As the old man of alchemy spoke, he walked to the side and sat cross-legged on the praying mat to rest. Han Yunxi looked at Long Fei and then looked at Gu. They were a little dumbfounded. 5 years. What kind of joke was this? Didn't the letter say that it would take at least 2 months? If it took 5 years, they might as well continue to look for the dragon pill. Why spend so much effort on refining the pill? Old man, you won't cry until you see the coffin, right? Gu walked over step by step. If I could wait that long, why would I look for you? Although the dragon pill was rare, according to the normal refining method, it would take 5 years. Even with such a large furnace, it would still take 5 years to refine. Did the old man of alchemy really think that they were amateurs? The old man of alchemy ignored him and looked at Han Yunxi. He said seriously, "Girl, according to the amount of snow wine you control, it will take 10 years to refine the dragon pill. With the power of the old man's furnace, it will take at least 5 years. Today, if you destroy the old man's furnace, the old man guarantees that no one in the world will be able to refine the dragon pill in 5 years. The old man of alchemy's attitude didn't seem like he was lying. Han Yunxi was shocked. She originally thought that the old man of alchemy wanted to use this opportunity to restrain Gu Beiyue and threaten them. She didn't expect that the amount of snow wine would affect the time of refining the pill. So, just now, she personally came to help the medicinal pill's old man. In fact, the medicinal pill's old man set a trap for her to jump in. What if we use your measurement? Han Yunxi asked. According to the old man's measurement, it will only take 1.5 months. However, the person who takes this pill will be addicted to alcohol. He must take the antidote regularly for 3 years to relieve his alcohol addiction. The old man of alchemy said seriously, the dragon pill can help people recover their internal strength. It is a heaven-defying action, so naturally, there will be restrictions. Even if you find the finished product, you will still be poisoned after taking it. The result of the poisoning was exactly the same as Han Yunxi's judgment. Han Yunxi immediately became angry. Old man, why didn't you say so earlier? Once Gu Beiyue's internal strength recovered, his vitality would also recover. As long as his vitality recovered, his foundation could be consolidated. It would be beneficial to Gu Beiyue's body. Although the poison of alcohol addiction would damage the body, no matter how much damage it would cause, it would not be as serious as the loss of vitality for 5 years. No matter what, it was worth it to recover his internal strength and get addicted to alcohol. You didn't ask. You were the one who made the dosage of the snow wine. Who's to blame? The old man of alchemy sneered. You. Han Yunxi was angry. If she had asked just now, would the old man of alchemy tell her so much? Would he tell the truth? The old man of alchemy clearly knew that she could see the poison, so he did it deliberately. If the old man of alchemy sincerely wanted to tell them the truth, he should have told them the truth when she adjusted the dosage of the snow wine. He should have told them the truth and let them make a choice, right? Long Fei Ye's face had already darkened, and Gu also slowly narrowed his eyes. I still have snow wine here. I'll remake the raw materials immediately. Han Yunxi said seriously. The old man of alchemy laughed. You're too late. Once the furnace layer is closed, no one can change it until the medicinal pills are refined. Change to other furnace layers. Gu said angrily. Hee, the other furnace layers are all full. It will take 3 years to refine one layer. You can wait patiently. The old man of alchemy finally got his revenge. He laughed heartily. Are you playing with us? Long Fei Yi said coldly. Gu immediately soared into the sky and released Immerse's sword spirit, fiercely slashing towards the alchemy furnace. Gu knew that before the sword could even get close to the alchemy furnace, it was shaken off by a scorching force. The old man of alchemy laughed even more wildly and wantonly. Once the celestial fire Qian furnace is full, not to mention your Immerse's sword spirit, even the Ganjiang treasure sword won't be able to hurt it. Hee, you just wait and see. Celestial Fire Qian Furnace. When Han Yunxi heard this name, her first reaction was that these furnaces were a pair. Qian was the meaning of heaven, and Kuan was the meaning of heaven. Qian and Kuan were the world. These two had always been together. If the fire of the furnace in front of them was the celestial fire, then would there be a furnace with earthly fire? If there was, then it must be called the earthly fire Kuan furnace. Gu didn't believe in heresy. He released Immerse's sword spirit and slashed with all his strength. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do anything to the earthly fire Kuan furnace. At this time, the silent Long Fei Yi suddenly pulled out his profound frost sword. Seeing this, the old man of alchemy was very disdainful and scoffed. He only took a glance and then retracted his thoughts, squinting his eyes to rest. However, Long Fei Ye's sword didn't slash towards the celestial fire Qian furnace. Instead, it fiercely slashed towards the ground, forcefully creating a crack in the ground. The old man of alchemy looked over and was immediately stunned. Gu Qishao only laughed out loud. Long Fei, you win. As he spoke, he fiercely slashed the crack in the ground. As the crack expanded, more than half of the ground tilted and sank. The alchemy furnace that was originally standing steadily also tilted. No furnace in the world could fall. Once a furnace fell, it would be destroyed. The inclination of the ground, coupled with the inertia of the tilt, made it impossible to support the furnace without sufficient strength. The old man of alchemy felt that the ground he was standing on was sinking little by little. Finally, he admitted defeat. Long Fei Yi, the old man has a way to refine the dragon pill in 1.5 months. Stop it. Stop. The old man of alchemy shouted. However, Long Fei Yi wasn't as easy to negotiate with as Gu and Han Yunxi. He didn't say a word, and the sword in his hand didn't stop moving. He didn't make a sound. Han Yunxi and Gu were also silent. They didn't dare to say anything. When this man was really angry, everyone would be afraid. The old man of alchemy didn't dare to talk nonsense. He said straightforwardly, as long as you can work together and borrow the power of the celestial fire furnace, turn your internal strength into open fire, and lead the fire into the furnace, you can use human fire to nourish the pill. With the power of you and Gu, 1.5 months definitely won't be a problem. Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed. Gu Beiyue could still be saved. Long Fei Yi was about to put away his sword, but Han Yunxi stopped him first. She took the opportunity to ask, "Old man, what's the origin of this celestial fire furnace? Why can't I see the fire inside?" Although the old man of alchemy really wanted to wait for this group of people to straighten the furnace first before answering their questions, he didn't dare to talk about conditions. He hurriedly explained, "This alchemy furnace is called the celestial fire furnace, which is also the heavenly furnace. There's always a fire in the furnace, burning since ancient times, and it's never extinguished. The celestial fire can't be seen, but with the help of the celestial fire, one can turn their internal strength into fire. When human strength turns into fire, it becomes human fire. Alchemy relies on human fire, not celestial fire. However, celestial fire can help human fire. As long as human strength is turned into fire, more human fire can be introduced, and more celestial fire can help." The old man of alchemy couldn't hold on any longer. He shouted, "Quickly come over and help. If this furnace really collapses, you really won't be able to get back the dragon pill." However, Han Yunxi still didn't allow Long Fei Yi and Gu to move. She continued to ask, "Since there's a celestial fire furnace, is there an earth fire furnace?" Ever since they started looking for the fire of 10,000 poisons, Han Yunxi paid special attention to all kinds of fire sources. The alchemy furnace in the medicine requesting cave was very strange, but it was ruled out by her very early on. Firstly, she personally came to see it and didn't find any traces of poison. Secondly, if the fire in this furnace was the fire of 10,000 poisons, then wouldn't the medicinal pills that had been refined for hundreds of years all be poisonous? Thirdly, Gu had stayed here for so long. If this place was suspicious, Gu would have already hinted to them. Celestial fire wasn't poisonous. What about the earth fire? The old man of alchemy was forced to this point, so he would definitely tell them everything he knew. Yes. That furnace is called the earthly fire Kun furnace, and it's a pair with the celestial fire Qian furnace. Celestial fire helps human fire, while earthly fire helps ghost fire. Pills refined from human fire are medicinal pills that can save people. Pills refined from ghost fire are poisonous pills that can harm people. Han Yunxi immediately became excited when she heard this. She turned around and looked at Long Fei Yi. Could it be the fire of 10,000 poisons? It's very likely. Long Fei Yi was overjoyed. If they could find clues about the fire of 10,000 poisons by searching for medicinal pills, then they wouldn't lose out this time. Gu was also very excited. He immediately asked the old man of alchemy, "Old man, how does ghost fire refine poison pills? Is it refined with poison, or is there another way?" The old man of alchemy's feet sank into the pit. His face was bright red from the heat of the furnace, and he was about to cry. The old man doesn't know. The old man has never seen the earthly fire Kun furnace either. The old man only knows this much. The old man begs you, quickly come and help. Han Yunxi believed him. If the old man of alchemy knew where the earthly fire Kun furnace was, he would have gone to find it long ago. Remember this. When we return, ask Su Donglin to immediately send someone to inquire about it. When Han Yunxi put down her hand, Long Fei Yi didn't withdraw his sword. Instead, he continued to swing it down fiercely. What's wrong with him? Everyone was stunned, except for Han Yunxi. Han Yunxi watched calmly. She watched as Long Fei Yi's sword aura was like a rainbow. The sword aura could topple mountains and overturn seas. It didn't hurt a single person, nor did it hit the ground. Instead, it shook the heavenly fire Kun furnace. This shake actually bounced the tilted heavenly fire Kun furnace up. After that, Long Fei Yi flew up and swung his long whip around the heavenly fire Kun furnace's body. He pulled it fiercely, causing the entire furnace to sink. The heavenly fire Kuin furnace was straightened and sank. Although it caused the ground under its feet to collapse, the heavenly fire Kuin furnace was finally able to stand firm. Long Fei Yi was expressionless. He withdrew his whip and returned to Han Yunxi's side. However, everyone was still in a daze. Just now, they didn't understand what Long Fei Yi wanted to do, but now, they were shocked by Long Fei Yi's profound internal strength. Gu was once again impressed by Long Fei Yi. Could Long Fei Yi's current strength be able to contend with the three venerables from Tianshan Kenzo? If they succeeded in dual cultivation, how high would Long Fei Yi's internal strength reach? He couldn't help but secretly ponder. After Long Fei Yi combined the power of Lustbite and the power of Nirvana, would he die after being kicked by Long Fei Yi? Of course, Gu hid all these thoughts in his heart. He was impressed, but he wouldn't admit it even if he was beaten to death. After the heavenly fire Kuin furnace stabilized, Old Man of Alchemy and his subordinates all let out a sigh of relief. Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi didn't give the Old Man of Alchemy a chance to catch his breath. Long Fei Yi immediately asked, "How do we turn internal strength into fire? With this prince and Gu's strength, how many days will it take from now on?" This prince wants a clear answer. If it took around a month and a half, then it would be spring by the time the dragon pill was refined. While refining the pill, they had to make plans to go to Tiger's prison to save people. Moreover, they had to work together with Ning Qing and the Ning family army. They had to officially join hands and send troops north. Before sending troops north, there was another very important matter, and that was how to guard against Bai Yanqing. With the current situation in Cloud Realm, as long as the Eastern, Western Qin sincerely cooperated, Long Fei Yi believed that Bai Yanqing wouldn't be able to stir up any big waves. They would only guard against Bai Yanqing when it came to their personal safety. This 1.5 months was very crucial. Long Fei Yi had to have a precise time plan. The Old Man of Alchemy was deeply threatened by Gu, but he was deeply impressed by Long Fei Yi. Although he and Han Yunxi had exchanged a few letters and he knew that their current strength and influence were completely different from when they came to ask for medicine, he never thought that Long Fei Yi's martial arts would improve so quickly. The Old Man of Alchemy replied very honestly, "With your internal strength, it's completely unnecessary to work together with Gu." Come up with the Old Man. Long Fei Yi immediately flew up to the top of the alchemy furnace with the Old Man of medicinal pills. Gu remained expressionless for a long time before his eyes slowly turned to look at the top of the alchemy furnace. Gu Qishao's eye-rolling expression almost made Han Yunxi laugh out loud from the sidelines. Han Yunxi had always only used her martial arts when she was dual cultivating with Long Fei Yi. They hadn't stopped cultivating on the way from Qingchuan Water City to Medicine City. She didn't know what level her internal strength was at now. Still, she had a vague feeling that she could beat Gu Qishao in a fight. Han Yunxi didn't know that even if she didn't know any martial arts, she could still beat Gu. Gu would never make a move against her in this lifetime. Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi had been dual cultivating for more than 2 months now. She only hoped that in less than a month, everything would go smoothly. On top of the alchemy furnace, the Old Man of Alchemy explained while demonstrating how Long Fei Yi could borrow the power of the heavenly fire to turn his internal strength into fire. For a martial arts genius like Long Fei Yi, the Old Man of Alchemy only needed to demonstrate once before he understood. With a light press of his hands, the lid of the furnace flew up. The fireballs under Long Fei Yi's hands gradually grew bigger. The heat waves of the fireballs were far hotter than the ones used by the Old Man of Alchemy. This was the first time the Old Man of Alchemy had seen such a martial arts genius. For a moment, he forgot the previous unhappiness and laughed crazily. "Not bad, not bad. Keep it like this for 3 days and 3 nights. Don't stop. Otherwise, before the old man of alchemy could finish his words, Han Yunshi was shocked. Don't stop. Why? If they didn't stop, what about their dual cultivation? Chapter 10:17. The old man of alchemy actually wanted the Long Fei Yi to maintain it for 3 days and 3 nights. Then what about his dual cultivation with Han Yunshi? Before Han Yunshi and the Long Fei Yi could say anything, Gu roared, "Old thing, what tricks are you playing now? What if you don't maintain it for 3 days and 3 nights? When the old man of alchemy had just transformed his internal energy into fire, didn't he only maintain it for a short while? Why should the Long Fei Yi maintain it for 3 days and 3 nights? Different cultivation methods, the old man is also helping you. The cultivation method he just learned has twice the effect with half the effort. If he maintains it for 3 days and 3 nights, there's a chance to transform into the 9 lotus raging fire. Once the 9 lotus raging fire is transformed, you can take back the dragon pill in about a month. The old man of alchemy said and coldly snorted, "After you take back the dragon pill, you should leave as soon as possible." The old man of alchemy now only had one thought, and that was to quickly refine the returning dragon cave and quickly send this group of plague gods away. "I'm asking you, otherwise what?" Han Yunshi suddenly snapped. She was concerned about the consequences if the Long Fei Yi didn't maintain it for 3 days and 3 nights. Otherwise, he'll be counterattacked by the power of the celestial fire Qian furnace. The old man of alchemy said very casually. He didn't even know what kind of big mistake he had made. He said lightly, "It's only 3 days. With his internal energy, it's as easy as turning over his hand. What's the consequence of being counterattacked?" The Long Fei Yi's tone was cold and calm. The power of the celestial fire Qian furnace is the power of the heavenly fire. It's the power of the heavens. The consequence of being counterattacked. What do you think? The old man of alchemy stroked his beard indifferently. "Don't worry, just treat it as losing some internal energy. 3 days will pass very quickly." The old man of alchemy smiled, but Long Fei Yi, Han Yunshi, and Gu were all silent. They all stared at the old man of alchemy without saying a word. Gradually, the old man of alchemy realized that something was wrong with them. He looked at them suspiciously and was about to ask. Gu suddenly burst out cursing, "You're fucking asking for a beating." After he finished speaking, he leaped up to the top of alchemy cauldron. Although she was of alchemy, she was slower of alchemy furnace, she caught of alchemy furnace, she caught of alchemy alchemist was of alchemy alchemy all a lot. Her movements were faster and more ruthless than Gu's. She grabbed the old man of alchemy's collar and roared, "Who told you to act on your own initiative? You're courting death." The power of the heavenly fire was the power of the heavens. It was far greater than anyone else's power. No matter how strong Long Fei Yi's internal energy was, it couldn't be compared to the power of the heavens. In other words, if Long Fei Yi suffered a counterattack, it would be a counterattack that was stronger than the power of the lust bite. What would be the consequence? There was no consequence at all. It would just be a death word. No matter what, Long Fei Yi couldn't stop. But if Long Fei Yi couldn't stop, how could he dual cultivate with her? They had persisted for so long. For more than 2 months, they hadn't stopped for a single day. They couldn't stop. Once this dual cultivation stopped, she and Long Fei Yi would suffer from qi deviation. The consequences that Long Fei Yi had to bear would be more serious than her. The power of the lust bite was different from other martial arts. Once one suffered from qi deviation, their internal energy would be lost. In the worst case, their life would be in danger. When Long Feiyi asked old Kenzo about the dragon pill, old Kenzo had specifically told him to be careful. If Long Feiyi suffered a counterattack from the power of the lust bite, even 10 dragon pills wouldn't be able to save him. Now, what should he do? Is there any way to stop it? Long Feiyi looked at the old man of alchemy. The old man of alchemy really didn't know how he had offended this great Buddha. He shook his head. Once this technique is activated, it must last for 3 days and 3 nights. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Feiyi's calm face finally turned pale. Han Yunxi was stunned. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The old man of alchemy wanted to say that he was doing this for their own good and that they should thank him. However, when he wanted to push Han Yunxi's hand away, who knew that Han Yunxi would suddenly let go and choke him? She didn't say a word. She just stared at the old man of alchemy with a cold gaze. If Long Feiyi couldn't stop, what should they do about their dual cultivation? She could give up her internal energy, but Long Feiyi couldn't. He had been learning martial arts since he was young. None of the frightening whip scars on his back had been treated with medicine. Those were pain and memories that could never be erased. How many times did the Tang sect go through the kamikaze training? How much perseverance did that young child need to endure it? How many trials of real swords and spears on Tian Shan Mountain? Swords and sabers were merciless. How much effort did that frail youth need to put in to endure it? He had an extraordinary background and was born with a noble bloodline. However, everything he had wasn't something he was born with. Especially with his martial arts. How could he give it up just like that? How could it be gone just like that? Even if it was her internal energy, it was still his. How could it be gone just like that? For the past 2 months, every night, no matter how tired they were, they never stopped dual cultivation. They cherished this hard-earned internal energy so much, especially her. Every time after dual cultivation, he would rub her bangs and smile at her. How happy and proud was he to see her internal energy improving day by day. Moreover, even if they were willing to part with their martial arts, they would still suffer from qi deviation. Their lives would be in danger. Regardless of whether they persevered or gave up, it was a dead end. There was no choice at all. What should they do? What to do? The sudden turn of events didn't make Han Yunxi panic, but made Han Yunxi's heart ache. Who told you to act on your own? Who told you to act on your own? Who told you to act on your own? Han Yunxi choked old man of alchemy as she questioned him over and over again. She was as stubborn as a child, determined to get an answer. Old man of alchemy struggled with all his might, only to discover that Han Yunxi's grip was too strong for him to break free. Old man of alchemy began to feel afraid. The Han Yunxi in front of him seemed like a completely different person, like a stranger to him. On one side, Long Fei's face was ashen white, his gaze so deep that it was impossible to tell what he was thinking. Gu was silent as well, his gaze complicated. In the end, it was Long Feiyi who spoke up. Yunxi, let go. Impossible. Han Yunxi fumed. Let go, Long Feiyi said mildly. Han Yunxi looked back. She wanted to be strong, but when she saw his pale face, she asked in a choked voice, Long Feiyi, what should we do? Let go first, Long Feiyi coaxed gently. Han Yunxi didn't speak, but shook her head. Be good, trust me, Long Feiyi said gently. Han Yunxi looked at him for a long time before viciously shaking off Old Man of Alchemy. Old Man of Alchemy almost fell off the top of the alchemy furnace. He greedily sucked in a few deep breaths before he finally recovered. He was angry as well. What do you mean by this? Old Man of Alchemy is helping you save time. No one wanted to explain things to Old Man of Alchemy. Long Fei Yi asked, what are the consequences of being bitten by celestial fire? Death. Old Man of Alchemy was very straightforward. How do you die? Long Fei Yi asked again. Long Fei Yi, what are you planning to do? Han Yunxi was anxious. Gu was anxious as well. Long Fei Yi, are you crazy? Old Man of Alchemy was truly at a loss. What are you planning to do? Isn't it just 3 days? Before he could finish, the calm Long Fei Yi suddenly shouted, answer me. His voice was so cold that it froze the hot air around them. Old Man of Alchemy was intimidated and muttered, the celestial fire will seep into the internal organs and burn them, enough. Long Fei Yi interrupted. He lowered his eyes and suddenly soared into the air. As he soared into the air, the flame under his hand suddenly flared up and expanded into a huge fireball. Clang! With a loud sound, the lid of the celestial fire Qian furnace was suddenly lifted by a powerful force. Han Yunxi, Gu, and Medicine Hut Old Man were all blown away by the heat wave and hovered in the air around them. Long Fei Yi, what are you doing? You're crazy. Han Yunxi wanted to chase after him, but unfortunately, the flame of the fireball was too strong. She couldn't get close enough to stop it. He and Long Fei Yi were both calm people, but who was calmer than the other? Han Yunxi was on the verge of collapse, but she still knew that both choices were dead ends. However, they still had to choose to break off the dual cultivation and give up everything. At least, if they chose to break off the dual cultivation, they still had a chance to live. If Long Fei Yi chose to break off the transforming technique into fire, then only death would await them. Han Yunxi always believed that Long Fei Yi was calmer than her, but what happened to him now? He actually chose the path of death. Long Fei Yi, answer me. What are you trying to do? Long Fei Yi, at worst, we'll stop the dual cultivation. At worst, we'll lose everything. So what? Long Fei Yi, what's wrong with you? You'll die. Han Yunxi kept questioning him loudly. Gu was also shocked, but he and Han Yunxi were the same. They couldn't get close to Long Fei Yi. Don't worry, I won't die. Long Fei Yi replied loudly. He planned to take a gamble and use all his internal energy to resist the power of the celestial fire. He knew that the power of the celestial fire couldn't be resisted, but at least it could be reduced. As long as it was reduced, he would have a chance to resist it. It wasn't that he wasn't calm, but he was too calm. The dual cultivation of the lustbite power was more dangerous in the later stages. If he stopped at this time, he would lose all his internal energy and would definitely go berserk. The possibility of his life being in danger was very high. In fact, both choices were the same. The only difference was that if he chose to be devoured by the celestial fire, then he would still have a chance to fight back. If he chose to break off the dual cultivation, then other than waiting for the consequences, there was nothing they could do. He would always be calmer than Han Yunxi, because he had to protect Han Yunxi. Han Yunxi, trust me. As soon as Long Fei Yi's voice fell, the big fireball in his hand suddenly turned into a fire dragon, flowing from top to bottom into the alchemy furnace. Long Fei Yi, don't you want me anymore? Han Yunxi had already lost control. Her vision was blurry. Long Fei Yi's figure was also blurry in the fire. The fire dragon quickly flowed into the celestial fire Qian furnace and quickly disappeared. Logically speaking, the furnace lid should have been closed. However, the huge round furnace lid didn't fall back. Instead, it fell heavily on the ground. Bang! For a moment, everyone looked at the furnace lid, and Chapter 10:18. Everyone looked at the lid of the furnace that had fallen to the ground. Suddenly, a strong heat wave rushed out from the furnace, directly attacking Long Fei-yi. Han Yunxi and Gu, who were at the side, were immediately blasted away by the heat wave. Both of them were blasted to the wall of the cave and spat out blood. They were just outsiders, but they were also affected by the impact. What about Long Fei-yi? The heat wave struck Long Fei-yi at lightning speed. Long Fei-yi was hit ruthlessly and his entire body flew backwards, crashing into the cave wall like Han Yunxi and Gu. But, unlike Han Yunxi and Gu who fell down, Long Fei-yi's entire body sunk into the cave wall and kept retreating. In the end, the entire wall behind him cracked. Long Fei-yi was like being stared at by a broken hole in the wall. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. The power of the heavenly fire continued to surge out from the heavenly fire Qian furnace and towards Long Fei-yi. Very quickly, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. No! Han Yunxi cried loudly. She crawled up from the ground and immediately flew over. But, she could not get close to the heat wave. The heat wave was colorless and formless, but it was extremely hot and terrifying. She had just gotten close when she was immediately blasted back. No! I don't want it. No! Han Yunxi kept getting closer like crazy, but she kept getting destroyed by the counterattack. Gu anxiously crawled up and pulled her. Calm down. Calm down. Gu urged loudly. At this time, Long Fei-yi began to resist. He crossed his hands and placed them on his dantian. His face was pale and cold. The power of the lustbite gradually erupted from his body, resisting the power of the heavenly fire that was pouring into his body. Han Yunxi did not dare to make a sound. She looked at Long Fei-yi in a daze. She could tell that he was using the power of the lustbite to resist the power of the heavenly fire. She could feel that the two of them were competing. She waited cautiously and anxiously. Long Fei-yi had said that the lustbite power was the strongest power in the world. Since that was the case, the lustbite power might be able to contend against the heavenly fire. At this moment, the old man of alchemy regained his senses and shouted, Long Fei-yi, do you want to die? How can the power of man contend against the power of heaven? No matter how strong the lustbite power was, it was still the power of a human. How could humans fight against the heavens? What's more, Long Fei-yi's lustbite power was not completely refined. Sure enough, Long Fei-yi's lustbite power suddenly dissipated, and the heavenly fire that had been accumulating all rushed towards Long Fei-yi's abdomen. Long Fei-yi's abdomen suddenly caved in as if he had been punched hard. The cracked cave wall behind him suddenly shattered and collapsed. Long Fei-yi! Han Yunxi shouted and struggled free from Gu's hand and flew over. The cave wall shattered and large rocks fell. Long Fei-yi's body was like a kite with a broken string. He fell down from the rubble and crashed onto the ground. He was sprawled on the ground, motionless. It was unsettling. Han Yunxi was so flustered that her entire body was trembling. She could not even call out his name. She landed at the side and ran forward like a madwoman. She did not even bother to stand up after falling down. She anxiously crawled forward and reached out to grab Long Fei-yi. But just as she was about to touch Long Fei-yi's fingers, the heavenly fire suddenly enveloped Long Fei-yi's entire body. In that instant, Han Yunxi was fiercely repelled by the heavenly fire and flew to the side. Poison lass! Gu ran over and was about to help her up when he was stunned. Han Yunxi's hand looked as if it had been burned by a raging fire. Her entire arm was bright red and had many large blisters. Some parts even had ulcers. Han Yunxi also stared blankly at her own arm. She was dumbfounded. But she quickly looked at Long Fei Yi, who was sprawled on the ground some distance away. Her hand had only come a little closer and it was already burned to such a state. What more, Long Fei Yi, who was completely enveloped by the heavenly fire, Han Yunxi wanted to call out his name. She wanted to wake him up and ask him to raise his head to look at her. But no matter how she opened her mouth, no sound came out. Just like that, tears streamed down her face without a sound. Han Yunxi's sky had collapsed. Soon, they saw the flames. The red flames started to burn from the corner of Long Fei Ye's clothes and gradually spread to his body. Although the speed was not fast, it was enough to make one feel despair. When Han Yunxi's tears fell on Gu's hand, Gu regained his senses. He suddenly grabbed Old Man of Alchemy and flew onto the big furnace. He did not know if this method would work, but he was going all out. This was the only method he could think of. No matter what, he had to give it a try. Teach me that martial art, quick. Gu said sternly. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? Old Man of Alchemy was frightened by Long Fei Ye's miserable state. He knew very well that if anything happened to Long Fei Yi, Han Yunxi would definitely not let anyone from the alchemy furnace off. Hurry! Gu Qishao shouted. Pill Furnace Master quickly did the same as before, allowing Gu Qishao to learn as soon as he learned. Soon enough, he transformed his internal energy into fire. He suddenly soared into the air and used all of his internal energy. He even used the power of Mo Xie's sword spirit. The flame under his hand suddenly grew larger, turning into a fire dragon, and poured into the cauldron at lightning speed. The fire disappeared and everything was calm. Gu's beautiful face was so serious that it was frightening. He stared at the mouth of the furnace and waited. He thought that if he stopped turning his internal energy into fire, he would also receive the backlash of the heavenly fire. Then, would he be able to share the power of the heavenly fire on Long Fei Yi? The power of the heavenly fire in the furnace should be constant. As long as he shared the burden, Long Fei Yi would have less. Gu Qishao had no idea whether his idea would work or not. He simply waited and waited anxiously. However, as time passed, he still couldn't feel the power of the heavenly fire. Could it be that he was wrong? He looked at Han Yunxi and saw that Han Yunxi tried to get closer to Long Fei Yi again and again. However, she was blasted away again and again. The flames on Long Fei Yi's body had already reached his legs. What should I do? What should I do? Gu was so anxious that his eyes turned red. Seeing his beloved poison lass in such a sorry state and her hands burned by the heat, his heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. He wanted to slap himself. He should have come to the medicine requesting cave to ask his master for medicinal pills. If he had come here himself, none of this would have happened. He shouted, Long Fei Yi, hang in there. If you die, I will bully. Poison lass. Before he could say those 3 words, a strong wave of heat rushed over from Long Fei Yi's side. Gu didn't expect this and was sent flying. It was similar to Long Fei Yi's situation. He was sent flying against the wall as if he was being stared at. Soon, he was bleeding from all 7 orifices. He touched the blood at the corner of his eyes and was stunned for a moment before he smiled. That terrifying face with blood stains blossomed into a brilliant smile. Blood and smile mixed together on his face. Terror and beauty merged into one. Because of his brilliant smile, there was an indescribable beauty. Gu's guess was right. He had succeeded. The heat wave surged, like a formless but powerful force, unceasingly striking his body. His internal organs, along with the impact of this force, felt the burning sensation become stronger and stronger. Gradually, his internal organs seemed to be on fire. It was an extremely uncomfortable and painful burning sensation. But Gu Qixiao's laughter only grew louder and happier. Ha ha ha, poison lass, look. I did it. I did it. Poison lass, Long Fei Yi can be saved. He can be saved. Gu shouted crazily. When he lowered his head to look, he saw Han Yunxi looking at him in shock. He suddenly became gentle. Poison lass, be good. Don't cry, all right. Qi brother promises you that Long Fei Yi will not die. He definitely won't. Once he said that, all of a sudden, the heavenly fire on Long Fei Yi's side gathered around him. It was as if a storm was brewing in the cave. What was going on? Long Fei Yi laid on the ground. He used all his strength to use the lustbite power to protect his internal organs and a few of his vital acupoints. He was even prepared to cripple his legs to save his life. However, the power of the heavenly fire that had been added to his body suddenly dissipated, and soon, it was all gone. Was the backlash over? How could it be so simple? Long Fei Yi endured the burning pain and internal injuries in his legs and crawled up. However, he quickly felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly looked to his right and realized that the heavenly fire had all gathered in the air on his right, in front of Gu. How could this be? What did this guy do? Han Yunxi also did not know why this happened. She then realized that the heavenly fire on Long Fei Yi's body was gone. She hurriedly ran towards Long Fei Yi. But before he could speak, all of the celestial fire in the air surged towards Gu Qixiao. If Long Fei's recoil just then had been unending and increasing in intensity, then Long Fei's current condition had been completely different. Then, at this moment, Gu's backlash was just one and it was extremely fierce. This power seemed to be unstoppable and destroyed half of the medicine-requesting cave. Gu's flirtatious red figure was drowned in the flying rocks. Gu! Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi shouted at the same time and hurriedly chased after Gu. They saw that he had fallen into the ruins. His luxurious and beautiful red clothes were on fire everywhere. It was as if poppies had bloomed on his red robes. The fire on his body burned much faster than Long Fei Yi's. Gu's guess was correct. He could accept the backlash and help Long Fei share the burden of the lustbite energy. However, when Long Fei Yi transformed his energy into fire, he was only trying and did not use much of his internal energy. Therefore, the backlash that Long Fei Yi received was continuous and gradually increasing. However, he used all his strength and even used the power of Mo Xie's sword spirit. He used far more energy than Long Fei Yi, so the backlash he received was naturally greater than Long Fei Yi's. He gave his all, so he had to bear everything. Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi were stunned. At this moment, Long Fei Yi had forgotten about Gu's immortal body and was also anxious. Gu did not have the power of the lustbite. With his little bit of internal energy, he was unable to contend against the power of the heavenly fire. He did not even have the chance to work hard. He was definitely going to die. Suddenly, all the small flames on Gu's body gathered at his abdomen, turning into a huge flame. In an instant, it spread all over his body. The fire burned through every part of Gu's body. Long Fei Yi, save him! Save him! Han Yunxi struggled free from Long Fei Yi's hand and turned to leave. If Gu could use the method of accepting the backlash to help Long Fei Yi share the power of the heavenly fire, then they could also use the same method. Long Fei Yi also wanted to leave. However, Gu raised his head from the raging flames. He said, "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.